Chapter 419. The scenery on both sides receded as the car sped along. Lu Cheng was a little scared and couldn't help but dissuade her. You don't have to drive so fast." Glancing at him from the corner of her eye, Yenjika released the accelerator and slowed down. She blushed and said with an embarrassed smile, "When I see others overtaking me and driving so fast, I want to overtake them. I think it's okay to drive faster. Aren't they all the same?" Lu Cheng was dumbfounded. He carefully observed his surroundings, measuring the details with his eyes. "What are you thinking about?" Yenjika unconsciously pressed the accelerator with her right foot in white casual shoes. Lu Cheng answered with a complicated expression. "I'm thinking about how to exert force, how to brake, and how to resist the collision of the opposite side if there is a problem." Yenjika slowed down the accelerator again, and didn't know what to say. When the car stopped at the traffic light, she asked with anger and amusement, "Am I really that bad at driving? I feel that everything is smooth today except for the ignition at the beginning." "It's not a problem of bad or not. You have the wrong mentality. You can't always think about overtaking others and driving so fast. You need to control yourself. If you often walk on the side of the road, your shoes will get wet." Lu Cheng was afraid that Ko would have an accident when he wasn't with her, so he seriously reminded her. Yenjika pouted and said, "Okay, I'll try." The green light flashed, and the car started again. This time the girl listened to Lu Cheng's advice and drove steadily. Occasionally, she wanted to overtake and speed up, but she noticed it in time and controlled herself. "Where are we going for a ride?" Lu Cheng was in the mood to look at the scenery outside the car. He saw towering buildings and rivers of lights. Yenjika showed her dimples and said in a light tone, "I'll take you to see the night market of Lining first, and then to the river bank." The capital of Jiangnan province was called Lining. Night market? What's it like? Lu Cheng thought of the flea market in Xioshan. "Hey, you'll know when you get there." Yenjika kept him guessing with a smile on her face. The car turned left and right, and after half an hour, they arrived at a bustling street. At a glance, the street was as bright as day, and simple shops were arranged in 3 rows, winding into the distance. There were people everywhere, and voices filled the air. With the help of the reversing radar and images, Yenjika parked the car with a sense of accomplishment. Holding Lu Cheng's hand, they entered the night market. There were all kinds of cheap goods such as clothes and mobile phone cases, as well as a lot of delicious food. Lu Cheng reached out his left hand and wrapped it around the girl's other shoulder. He pulled her closer to him, separating them from the pedestrians who were rubbing shoulders with each other, so that they wouldn't brush against each other. The two of them walked and stopped. Yenjika fully enjoyed the pleasure of bargaining. Although she didn't like those things at all, she just wanted to experience life. She also sternly criticized Lu Cheng, saying that he had never learned how to bargain. Every time he talked he would say, "How much? 150? Can you make it cheaper?" "No." "Fine, give it to me." After strolling for a while, Yenjika led Lu Cheng to a roadside stall, and asked for 2 big chicken steaks. While waiting, she said, "Their family started from here, and now it has become a national chain. But except for here, the food in other places is not good." "Really? I think the food in other stores is not bad." Lu Cheng asked with interest. "That's because you haven't eaten good food." Yenjika looked at her boyfriend with disdain, and then turned to sympathy. She laughed in a low voice and said, "Poor child, I can only take you to broaden your horizons." While talking, the chicken steaks were ready and put into a bag. They each took a piece, held hands, and walked while eating. Both of them felt that this was especially like a student couple on a date. "Hey, it's true. It's much better than those in Songcheng." Lu Cheng expressed his admiration and surprise while gnawing on the tender chicken steaks. He ate half of them in a few bites. Yenjika slightly raised her chin and smiled with a little pride. "I told you, but you didn't believe me. Come, let's take a picture." She took out her phone and asked Lu Cheng to lean his head and body over. They held the chicken steaks together and took a selfie. She didn't know when it started, but she, who didn't like to take pictures before, liked to record the interesting things they experienced together in this way. Click. Yenjika pursed her lips and tilted her head, outlining the beautiful image. Lu Cheng showed his true colors indifferently. In the end, he laughed and said, "Ku, you haven't eaten at roadside stalls before, right? Where did you hear about this chicken steaks?" "My cousin. Well, Sister Lingxi took me here once." Yenjuka answered with a sweet smile. Sister Lingxi is indeed a veteran player. Lu Qing nodded in realization. Ji Lingxi was the eldest daughter of this generation of the Ji family, for years older than Ku. She was born with extraordinary strength, but she didn't like to practice martial arts. She walked the path of learning and management. She had reached the level of professional ninth pin in her first year of college, and was still at professional ninth pin in her fourth year of college. 2 years after graduation, she had just touched the threshold of Dan stage. She was a very playful person. She did everything like skateboarding, surfing, singing and dancing, hiking, cruising, collecting and buying bags. In addition, she was also interested in experiencing the different characteristics of different places, discovering the delicious food and interesting shops by the roadside. She was the kind of person who could attend banquets and go to roadside stalls. Talking and laughing, they ate from the chicken steak stall to the end of the night market. They ate one stall after another, all of which were certified by the gourmet Ji Lingxi. They took a detour from the outside of the night market to the car. Yenjuka led Lu Qing to the riverside, where the cool night wind blew and they strolled to digest the food. Ningjiang's blue waves were wide and spacious. Looking at it, one would feel refreshed and refreshed. The water rushed into one's face, nourishing one's skin and soul. The girl pulled Lu Qing while walking beside the guardrail. She giggled and swayed as if she was still a little girl. "It's getting late. We have to go back." She looked at her watch, still wanting to continue. "We can stay out all night," Lu Qing instigated, half joking. Yenjuka rolled her eyes at him and imitated his tone. "Then you'll be chased by my grandpa and grandma all the way to 8 streets. Shivering in fear. Lu Qing joked. It was his first day in the house, and he was already abducting someone's granddaughter to stay out all night. Was he asking for a beating? They opened the door and entered the car from the left and right sides. Yenjuka had just sat down, but before she could fasten her seatbelt and turn on the ignition, she felt her body tilting and falling towards the passenger seat. She was pulled into Cheng's arms. "You," just as she raised her head, she saw Lu Cheng's burning black eyes. After experiencing the continuous bed and pillow sharing during the national competition, Lu Cheng had been itching for a long time because of Yenjuka and Ji Mingyu's interference in the past week. It was easy to go from frugal to extravagant, but difficult to go from extravagant to frugal. Yenjuka closed her eyes, straightened her slender neck like a swan, and kissed him gently. She sat with her legs curled up, overlapping with her boyfriend. They were very close together. Lu Cheng had already observed the surroundings, so he knew there was no one here. While kissing her passionately, he started to caress her shoulders, back, legs and feet, and gradually went deeper. "This seat. Can you put it upside down?" Lu Cheng asked eagerly when he kissed her ear. "I can't do it like this. I don't know how to do it. You can search for it." Yenjuka answered in a faint and confused voice. She didn't even know what she was saying. Search for it at this time? Lu Cheng didn't want to be distracted. He couldn't wait to use forced concentration. He leaned close to her and knocked the seat over. At this moment, a sharp ringtone sounded and kept echoing. Yenjuka pushed Lu Cheng away and glared at him shyly. She pursed her moist lips, picked up the phone, and answered the call. "Hello, Sister Lingxi. You're back." "Yes, we're outside. I brought Cheng to the night market." "Okay, we're on our way back." Lu Cheng smiled helplessly and reached over to help Ka tidy up her clothes. "Humph, it's so dangerous to be with you." Yenjuka sat back in the driver's seat and calmed down. She started the ignition with a red face. "I haven't been intimate with you for a long time." Lu Cheng adjusted his pants. Yenjuka glared at him and bit her lip. "It'll be fine after a few days. Anyway, my period starts tomorrow." As she spoke, she couldn't help but laugh. "I know. By the way, where's your aunt?" Lu Cheng changed the topic and asked about her real aunt. "She went to Shushan study to take care of my brother." Yenjuka calmed down and started the car. The journey was smooth and there were no accidents. 40 minutes later, they arrived at the Ji family's old residence. They parked the car and walked to the front door. Before Lu Cheng and Yenjika got close, they heard people talking inside. Mine costs more than 300,000 yuan per gram. It smells like medicine. It can cure many diseases. It's not as good as your prayer beads, brotherly. My prayer beads are made of ordinary material. They were blessed by the eminent monks of Daxing Temple and nourished by chanting scriptures every day for half a year. I was very unlucky last year. My dad gave up his pride and asked for this. It's hard to tell how much it's worth. Okay, don't show off this every time. If you're so good, get us one each. What the hell? Lu Cheng was at a loss. This was something he didn't understand at all. Yenjika glanced at him and said in a low voice, "Don't worry about them. They like to play these games. It's boring." She turned the doorknob and opened the door. 2 men and 2 women were chatting in the main hall. Lu Cheng recognized Ji Lingxi immediately. She looked more like Empress Dowager than Ku. She was tall and elegant, but her eyebrows were not sharp enough. "You're back?" Ji Lingxi wore a white t-shirt, denim shorts, and a pair of high-heeled sandals. She stood up with a smile and said, "Come, let me introduce you. This is the young master of the Jindi group, Zhang Li. His father has a good relationship with the high monks of Daxing Temple." Zhang Li had dark skin and ordinary features. He wore a string of dark brown prayer beads on his wrist. "This is Han Zhengqiao. His mother is the chairman of our province's Martial Artist Association." Ji Lingxi smiled and pointed at the other person. Han Zhengqiao was more handsome than Zhang Li, but he had heavy eye bags and lacked vitality. He was holding a green pendant in his hand. "This is Guogua. Ku, you know her. We've had dinner together a few times. Her father is independent now." Ji Lingxi looked at the girl with long wavy hair beside her. After that, she pointed at Yenjika and said, "You don't need me to tell you. This is my cousin Yenjika. Several guys want to pursue her. Unfortunately, before they could do anything, someone else beat them to it. Hey, could you introduce your boyfriend?" Yenjika looked at Lu Cheng and thought for a while. Then she smiled and said simply without any suffixes, "He's Lu Cheng." Chapter 420. He's Lu Cheng. The 4 simple words made the atmosphere solemn. Zhang Li, Guogua, and the others were silent for more than 10 seconds. "Look, this is the heavenly son of the age." Ji Lingxi was the first to come back to her senses. She smiled and looked at her companions. Then she turned to Yenjika and complained. When they heard Lu Cheng was coming, they were so excited and curious that they wanted to follow me home. They wanted to see what the heavenly son of the age looked like, and see if he had 3 heads and 6 arms. "So I'm a monster?" Lu Cheng replied humorously. No. You're not a monster. You've been practicing martial arts for a year and a half, and you're already at the top of the 6th pin. You're not a monster, you're a Superman." Zhang Li smiled. He was relatively calm. He turned the dark brown Buddhist prayer beads in his left hand. "Yes, a Superman." Han Zhengqiao agreed with an exaggerated smile. In the end, he asked in confusion, "Lu Cheng, why do I feel that you're a little different from the one on TV?" "What's different?" Lu Cheng looked at Yenjika with a smile, and found that she was just as confused as he was. It had only been 5 or 6 days since he last entered the broadcast. Guogua was a short and petite girl, but her facial features were quite imposing. At this time, she also muttered, "It's a little different. The you on TV is more flamboyant. You have a kind of temperament that makes people not dare to look at you directly." "Haha, I know what's going on. During a fierce battle, you'll definitely release your momentum to oppress and influence your opponent's mind. When the battle was over and you were interviewed, you still haven't completely calmed down," Lu Cheng said in realization. His TV appearance was considered his battle form. "So that's how it is. When you're idle, you're like a forest, but when you're fighting, you're like a fire." Zhang Li nodded thoughtfully. None of them were interested in martial arts. They would only watch the matches that attracted a lot of attention. Therefore, even though there were many powerful seniors around them, they didn't notice the details. After such small talk, the atmosphere was relatively lively. Ji Lingxi, Han Zhengqiao, and the others sat down and began to chat about various things. It was obvious that they were focusing on Lu Cheng. Seeing that he was not very interested, they did not mention the rosary beads, the yellow jade ambergris, and other things. Instead, they talked about the gossip of the martial arts circle. Lu Qing didn't care about what they were talking about. Even if one of their collections was worth more than all of his savings, he didn't feel the slightest bit inferior. Instead, he took it as an opportunity to broaden his horizons and listen quietly. Since he had the confidence, there was no harm in doing so. Time ticked by. Lu Qing tapped on his phone, looked at the screen and got up with a smile. It's getting late. I need to rest. You guys take your time. His tone was normal, but there was a hint of irrefutability in it. Ji Lingxi stood up as well and asked in surprise, so early? Since he started practicing martial arts, he's been living like an old man. Yeah, so am I. Yan Zheka explained for her boyfriend with a smile. She also thought of an excuse for herself. Then it's time for us to go back. Zhang Li turned the prayer beads and smiled. We're going out to sea tomorrow. Do you want to join us? Let's go fishing and get some fresh air. Oh right, there are a few fights on the open sea with no restrictions on life and death. There were referees in the challenge tournament. It was more exciting than exciting. Some rich people privately organized underground challenge tournament in war-torn areas and on the open sea to satisfy their own desires. Challenge tournament without referees. Even if no one died in the real fight, there would definitely be scenes of blood splattering everywhere and bones breaking, which would excite the beastly side of people. Of course, the fighters who were willing to make quick money in the challenge tournament weren't very strong. If there was a Dan stage 7th pin or 6th pin fighter, even if they owed a lot of money, there would be someone to vouch for them, and they would have the opportunity to repay their debts slowly. No need. Lu Qing glanced at Yan Zheka and declined with a smile. Tomorrow, he would stay at home with Ko and massage her belly. He had left this day empty in his previously cancelled travel plan. All right, I'll find you next time out at sea. With your listening skill, you'll definitely catch a lot of fish. Zhang Li didn't insist. He left the Ji family's old house with Han Zhengqiao and Guo and got into his SUV. He took off the dark brown prayer beads and put them on the gear shift. After a few seconds of silence, he asked, "What do you think? What do you think of Lu Qing? He's quite gentle, friendly and introverted." Han Zhengqiao rubbed his eye bags and answered seriously. "But don't you think his aura is very strong? It's the kind of feeling where you can do whatever you want, and we can only listen obediently." Guo frowned and said softly, "Haha, that's normal. That's the confidence of a mighty one accumulated through countless victories. My mother was the same. She didn't need to get angry or speak loudly. As long as she decided something, I wouldn't dare to say a word." Han Zhengqiao laughed at himself. Let alone a heavenly son of the era like him. Yeah. Zhang Li started the engine and started the car. Anyway, regardless of whether he can become a physical invulnerability expert in the future, I think he'll definitely become an inhuman, Han Zhengqiao added. We're not strong and we don't have the heart to practice martial arts. It's good to make more friends like him. Yo, I didn't expect our young master Han, who loves wine, cars and women, to say something like that. Guo laughed. Han Zhengqiao was a typical spoiled brat. This is called being prepared for danger in times of peace, he replied. Zhang Li nodded in agreement and said slowly, I didn't advise you in vain. Why do you think Lingxi had to come back today? Is it because of their sisterly relationship? Isn't it? Guo and Han Zhengqiao asked in surprise. Zhang Li chuckled. The Ji family is a typical martial arts family. Although they have a lot of assets, money and power, they're still ranked by their strength. Before he could finish, Guo interrupted him. She played with her wavy hair and frowned. Uncle Ji and his siblings are very close. They're very close. That's because old master and old madam are pressuring him. Haha, where there are people there will be the underworld. Where there is money and power, there will be disputes. How many mistresses did Uncle Ji keep outside in order to have a strong son and daughter to stabilize his foundation? It's a pity that none of them are good enough. He doesn't even dare to bring them home. Zhang Li sighed. Lingxi has shed countless tears because of this. She may seem like a carefree playboy, but she knows better than anyone else. She knows she can't achieve anything in martial arts, so she doesn't want to fight for anything. She just wants to maintain her current status and life. It's the most reasonable and practical choice for her to continue befriending Yenjika. Especially since she has an amazing boyfriend, the kind that's really amazing. Lu Cheng had been interacting with the Heavenly Sons of China recently, making it seem like there were many young martial artists of this level. In fact, there might not even be one in several provinces. At least Zhang Li and Han Zhengqiao were around. Previously, only Lin Ke was slightly close. In a situation where a high-ranked Dan stage inhuman could become the upper class of a province, it was normal for the Heavenly Sons of China, who had a high chance of reaching the physical invulnerability stage, to be highly valued. Brotherly. Han Zhengqiao was stunned. He couldn't help but gasp. You're really good at hiding your strength. You see things so clearly. Zhang Li sneered. My family has a lot of people. If I were really stupid, I would have been swallowed up by others. How could I be the young master? He sighed again. I'm really envious of Lu Cheng and the others. They're strong and don't have to worry about scheming. Anyway, I'm waiting for a chance to help him or be helped by him. Either way, it would improve their relationship. In the guest room of the Ji family's old house, Lu Cheng didn't try to sneak into the room under the watch of a physical invulnerability expert. After washing up, he lay on the bed and received a call from his mother. After a few words, Qi Fong said mysteriously, Your brother has made a fortune recently. Huh? Lu Cheng was dumbfounded. Lu Yanwei really succeeded in starting his own business? I haven't heard him mention it recently. Erzi has expanded his business to Xioshan. He asked your brother to help him and even gave him shares. Qi Fong gossiped excitedly. She wasn't jealous because of this. After all, her son was very promising and not just anyone could catch up with him. Lu Cheng was stunned for a moment. Who's Erzi? Qi Fong didn't know what to say. After a while she said, He's a relative from Qingfu. He often comes to visit your grandparents recently. I remember now. He's a nice guy. Lu Cheng said perfunctorily. He has no taste. How could he ask your brother for help? Look at how many things he has failed. Qi Fong insisted that Lu Yanwei didn't have the ability to start his own business. It doesn't matter. After all, we're not the ones who suffer losses. Lu Cheng laughed. That's true. Also, your dad got promoted recently. Fatigua put him in charge of the whole factory and gave him shares. Cheng, don't you think it's because of you? You just won the national championship and Fatigua mentioned it. What's that idiom? What's that? Qi Fong didn't know much about it. Icing on the cake. Lu Cheng helped his mother add. Fatigua is a nice guy. Didn't he help me in my hour of need back then? That's true. Anyway, if he really asks you for help, don't worry about us. Help if you can. Don't worry if you can't. Qi Fong said with concern. Yes, yes, yes. Lu Cheng replied with a smile. After the phone call ended and the surroundings quieted down, he sighed with emotion. After he won the national championship and gained the reputation of being the heavenly son of the age, everything around him was changing. It might have happened in the past, but it was definitely not as obvious as now. Without him saying anything, the fate of his relatives and friends had changed. Until now, Lu Cheng really understood what it meant to change one's status. Chapter 421. While Lu Cheng was on the phone with Qi Fong, Jilingxi kicked off her slippers and sat cross-legged on the bed in Yenjika's private bedroom. She looked at her cousin who had just changed into her nightgown with a faint smile. Ko, you're so good at keeping secrets. Do you still think I'm your sister? I saw you hugging Lu Cheng in the finals a few days ago. That's how I guessed you two were together. If it were before today, Yenjika would have been a little proud of her cousin's words. However, the truth told by Lu Cheng had dispelled her complacency. She didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She replied, I didn't mean to lie to anyone. Grandpa and Grandma already knew. Sister Lingxi, it's because you're living too freely and don't care about me. That's why you didn't find out, right? She had kept it a secret for a long time. Except for her father, she couldn't keep it a secret from anyone. Why was she so careful with Cheng in the beginning? Jilingxi was at a loss for words. She combed her hair and said, Didn't I tell you that some guys wanted to pursue you? What did you tell me? I don't want to find a boyfriend for the time being. Isn't that a lie? She changed her voice and tone to Yenjika's to describe the original words. I didn't lie to you. I already have a boyfriend. Of course I won't find another one. I have to be wholehearted in love. How can I have a foot in two boats? Yenjika retorted righteously. As she spoke, her lips curved into an unconcealable smile. I've already thought about how to explain it. Jilingxi's mouth twitched. She said bitterly, I really want to pinch your face. In childhood, Yenjika had cute baby fat. Jilingxi almost developed the hobby of pinching her face. Without waiting for her cousin to speak, she changed the topic and gossiped excitedly. When did you and Qing get together? How long? She had asked similar questions on QQ before, but Yenjika always changed the topic skillfully. She didn't want to share her and Cheng's private affairs with others, even her cousin. Now Jilingxi finally had a chance to interrogate her directly. Yenjika's eyebrows twitched. She pursed her pink lips and answered reluctantly. We got together on Valentine's Day last year. Speaking of this, she suddenly felt sweet and unknowingly added, he chased after me for a semester. Ayaya, I really want Cheng to chase after me again. I didn't feel anything back then, and didn't get to enjoy it properly. Valentine's Day last year? At that time, Lu Qing hadn't reached 9th pin yet, right? Jilingxi recalled the introduction she had read about Lu Qing. Probably a weak 9th pin. Yenjika retorted seriously. Jilingxi took a deep breath and furrowed her brows. She said in surprise. In other words, when you two got together, he was just a newcomer who didn't show any signs of becoming a heavenly son of the age at all. You have good taste. At that time I didn't think that he would be so talented as to reach rank 6 so quickly. Yenjika rolled her eyes and bit her pink lips. She said, I just felt that he was silly and very attentive to me. Yes, very attentive. He was also very motivated and willing to work hard. Chatting with him and going through the challenge tournament with him were very interesting. That's why I fell in love with him. As she spoke, her tone gradually softened. Obvious sweetness and happiness overflowed between her eyebrows. Her eyes were like ripples in the spring breeze. At this moment, Jilingxi felt that her cousin was too beautiful to look at directly. She was blinded by the happiness in her words. Why were all my 3 boyfriends useless and unmotivated? But could pick an old classmate who had just reached 9th pin, and pick a heavenly son of the age? Was there really something wrong with her taste or the standard of her choice? After Yenjika finished her narration, she stopped reminiscing and looked at her cousin with gentle and bright eyes. She waved her white hand in front of her. Sister Lingxi? Jilingxi came back to her senses and decided not to continue this topic that would make her feel sad. She chuckled and said, did I disturb you and Lu Qing by calling you before? Yenjika was stunned at first, but then she understood. Thinking of the charm in the car, she couldn't help but blush and deny it. Of course not. Hey, I'm experienced. First love aside, I have at least 2 serious ones. When you picked up the phone, even as a woman, my heart skipped a beat. If it were a man, he would have knelt down and said, Okay, I'll listen to you. I'll give you whatever you want. Jilingxi said. Jilingxi teased. She reached out and poked her cousin's collarbone. Besides, isn't there physical evidence? Yenjika looked down blankly and saw a red, obvious kiss mark on her delicate collarbone. Her collar was wrinkled with gauze and covered her collarbone in a refined and elegant manner. Even Lu Qing didn't notice that he had left a mark. It was only when she changed into her nightgown that everything was exposed. All of a sudden, Yenjika felt her face burning. She wished she could find a hole and hide in it. She had a subtle feeling of being caught red-handed in bed. She jumped out of bed in embarrassment and anger, and ran to the dressing mirror. She took a selfie on her collarbone and sent it to Lu Qing. It's all your fault. It's all your fault. My cousin saw it. Lu Qing had just finished lamenting that the fate of his relatives and friends had changed because of him when he saw the girl's message. I was too excited just now. Jilingxi saw the whole process of Yenjika getting out of bed and taking a selfie. She suddenly felt a sense of loss. This was the kind of pureness and passion that only real first love had. possessing certain characteristics due to this realm, and possessing similar characteristics due to certain characteristics were completely different. They were fundamentally different. Lu Cheng's ice and fire supernatural ability came from the stimulation of the Jindan and the blending of power, which was different from his frost force and Zhurong force. If he wanted to enter the inhuman level, he still had to follow the prescribed internal training and change his root pulp so that it was compatible with the martial arts instead of the Jindan. When the supernatural ability of ice and fire, frost force, and Zhurong force were perfectly integrated, there would be no difference. That was one of the main conditions to enter the inhuman level. His qi and blood, spirit, and force all contracted and embraced each other in balance. Then they quickly collapsed and rushed out. Lu Qing observed the subtle changes in his body, looking for the traces of the changes of yin and yang, ice and fire. Unknowingly, the sky was bright and the sun was piercing. Lu Qing put away his stance and exhaled a mouthful of foul air, ending the morning training. His physical qualities were not at the level of the top sixth pin. How could he enter the inhuman level in one step? Calming down, Lu Qing returned to the house and met Ji Jianzhang and Dou Ning, who had also returned from training. They nodded in satisfaction. After breakfast, Ji Lingxi went out to sea to play. Yanjika's stomach started to hurt, so she went back to her room to lie down. Lu Qing went to sleep beside her and rubbed her stomach with his warm hands. Yanjika felt the familiar support and the care to relieve the pain. She felt that the pain was not so bad. Sneaking a glance at Lu Qing, she suddenly recalled what her cousin Ji Lingxi had said last night. "Ku, are you still going abroad?" "Yes." "Are you willing to give up your Lu Qing? Are you not afraid? Are you not afraid of problems?" "I believe in him, and I believe in myself." "Then enjoy it. There is only 1 year and 3 months left." Hearing this, Yanjika's mood inexplicably darkened. She couldn't help but lean closer to Lu Qing. "There is only 1 year left. I have to cherish every day with Cheng." After the pain of the first day passed, Lu Qing and Yanjika had a good time in Linning with their tour guide, Ji Lingxi. On the afternoon of the 4th, they set off on their return journey. In the past few days, except for her aunt who went to Shushan study to take care of Lin Kei, Yanjika's uncles, Ling Feng and Ling Yun all had excuses to not come back. When they returned to campus, Lu Qing and Yanjika's life was once again fulfilling. Every day, they had to work overtime to make up for the classes they missed. Fortunately, during the national competition, they rarely went out. After watching the videos of their opponents, they spent most of their time studying. Finally, they caught up with the progress before the final exam, and were confident about their grades. After the last exam, Yanjika was about to wait for Lu Qing when the class monitor told her to go to the school office. "Qing, I'm going to the lower house office. Wait for me after the exam." She sent a message with her dimples. Then she followed the class monitor to the dean's office and saw 3 classmates who were in the same training program as her. When the dean saw that everyone was present, he crossed his arms and coughed. "Ivan University has made a request. They hope that the training program can be advanced by 1 year, and you can go there in your 3rd year. This way, you can adapt better and learn better. The school has thought about it and thinks it's a good idea." Seeing the dean's mouth open and close, Yanjika didn't hear the rest of his words. There was only one thought echoing in her mind. 1 year ahead, 1 year ahead. Chapter 422. 1 year in advance, 1 year in advance. At this moment, Yanjika didn't feel happy at all. Instead, she felt flustered and sad, as if she had been diagnosed with a terminal illness. At the beginning of May, when Ji Lingxi asked her if she still insisted on going abroad, her answer was firm and resolute. However, when everything happened in advance, she suddenly felt the strong reluctance in her heart. She had promised to go drifting with Cheng during the summer vacation, to go to the northern lands to see the aurora in January next year, to spend her and Cheng's 21st birthday together, to go to Yuanyang Mountain to ask for the lock of love on their 2nd anniversary together, to announce their relationship after meeting his parents, to stick together every day, and to whisper sweet nothings to each other. She thought too much, promised too much, and had too little time. Bring the materials I just mentioned here as soon as possible. The school will help you with all the procedures. If everything goes well, you can leave at the beginning of August. There will be a short-term language training program. I believe it will be easy for you with your foreign language foundation. Well, you can go back now. If you can't remember the materials, here is the list. The dean stroked his increasingly precious hair tenderly. Early August? It's the end of June. That means there is only 1 month left. In 30 days, I will be separated from Chung. I can only see him 2 or 3 times a year. Yenjika suddenly felt breathless and her heart tightened. She endured the sudden throbbing, took the list blankly, and followed the students in front of her out of the dean's office. Yenjika. Suddenly, she heard a slightly shrill voice. Yenjika came back to herself and looked up at Huang Shiwen. Huang Shiwen was the one who had received the same training quota as her. Huang Shiwen was the one who had called her just now. What? Yenjika responded blankly. What were you thinking about? I said when we get there, we can live together, okay? We know each other and are classmates. We can take care of each other. Huang Shiwen complained and repeated what she had just said. Her chubby face washed away her gorgeous features, making her easy to get close to. The 2 boys beside her were also discussing the same thing. Yenjika was a girl who would never cry when she was sad. She was used to keeping all kinds of negative emotions in the bottom of her heart and not letting them out. When Huang Shiwen finished, she had already controlled herself and answered with a faint smile. Okay, if there is no other arrangement at home. They were all classmates and didn't lack each other's contact information. Without saying much, they parted ways in front of the school building, each with their own business. On the way to the basic teaching building, Yenjika wandered under the shade of the trees, tasting the reluctance and nostalgia in her heart. She had been gone for at most 5 to 6 years, or at least 3 to 4 years. She had been gone for more than 1,000 days and nights, longer than the time I had spent with Chung. There were many accidents, many coincidences, many tests and many suspicions. If she was not careful, her feelings would be fragile and dissipate. Even if I don't go abroad, I can still study deeply, share the Empress Dowager's worries, and do whatever I want in the field I like. Wouldn't it be nice to be with Chung every day, accompanying him as he climbed to the peak of martial arts, sharing his pain and suffering, feeling his happiness, anger and sadness, and watching each other grow old bit by bit until the end? But if I really give up, I will regret it for the rest of my life. I will feel that my years of effort have been wasted. I will feel that my personality is no longer complete, and I will become Cheng's accessory, dream or love. Once again, Yenjika sighed as if a hero's breath was short of love. Maybe it's really like what Dad and Empress Dowager said. It's best not to fall in love in college and to go easy. At this moment, a melody inexplicably appeared in her mind. If there is no you and no past, I won't be sad. But if there is an if, I will still love you. Yes, no matter what, I still want to love that silly Chung. Yenjika bit her lip. Her emotions rose and fell. After a painful struggle, she decided to take the opportunity to study abroad. I believe in myself and Chung. I believe that we can withstand the test of time and distance. I believe that we can finally walk together and go through all the hardships and happiness in life. Phew. She spat out the melancholy and sadness in her heart. Then she heard the special notification sound of her phone. She took it out of her bag and found that it was a message from Lu Chung. Ko, are you still not done? Do you want me to pick you up at your school building? Yenjika's eyes turned red because of this simple sentence. She turned her head and looked aside. After a while, she replied with an expression that looked like she was crying and laughing at the same time. I'm done. You stand there and wait for me. Her fingers paused in the middle of typing, and then she pretended to type the last few words. I'll pick you up. Okay, the usual place. Lu Qing replied with a silly smile. At this moment, his phone suddenly rang. It was from his mother. Hello, Chung. Have you finished your exams? How do you feel? Qifeng asked about his studies out of habit. Just right. Not bad. Lu Qing couldn't find any other words to describe it. His grades were probably above 60 or 70. He probably didn't fail any subjects. Qifeng didn't really care about her son's studies. After a short sentence, she asked the key question. When will you come back? Have you booked the tickets? She lowered her voice and said excitedly, Chung, why don't you bring that classmate of yours home and let mom and dad meet her? It's that Yenjika. You two are destined to meet. High school classmate, college classmate, martial arts club teammate. After defeating Shanbei in the finals, Yenjika and Lu Qing hugged each other passionately and almost kissed each other, which blinded a group of single dogs. At the same time, it also exposed their relationship in front of Lu Jisheng and Qi Fang. That night, during their daily call, Lu Qing witnessed his mother's ability to gossip and was bombarded for a long time. After her son finally grew up and had a wife, he almost forgot about his mother. Qi Fang was quite satisfied with Yenjika, who was very good in all aspects. Plus, they were from the same hometown, so she was more satisfied with them. She kept urging her son to bring his girlfriend back and let them meet her. To be honest, if her son didn't win the national championship and was called the heavenly son of the age, she felt that she would be more nervous. She was worried that her son didn't deserve her daughter-in-law, and that they would fall in love in the future. Yes, that's right, that's a phrase she just learned from TV. Mom, I've told Ke that I'll bring her to our house when I'm free when I'm back in Xioshan. Lu Qing didn't specify a specific day because he still wanted to abduct Ke and try to find a place to go on a trip with her before they returned to Xioshan. Okay. You have to tell me in advance. I have to go grocery shopping and prepare a welcome gift. Qi Fang rambled on. Suddenly, she remembered something. Come to my door, come to my door. Oh, last summer. Didn't Han Er's wife say that a very beautiful girl came to our neighborhood? I wonder whose girlfriend she is. Qing, tell me honestly, it's Yenjika, right? She's here for you, right? Yes. Lu Qing wiped his cold sweat and admired his mother's memory of gossip. Of course, he also had a deep impression of this matter, because it was the first time in his memory that he saw and felt the beautiful body of a girl in real life. Moreover, it was the body of his beloved girl. You two were together at that time? Qi Fang's voice suddenly rose. You're all grown up now, aren't you? You hid it from me for almost a year. Mom, I was wrong. I wanted to tell you after my relationship with Ke had been confirmed. Lu Cheng's apology came naturally to his mother. Practice made perfect. Qi Fang wasn't angry. She pondered for a moment and said, I told you that you look very smart in your clothes for more than a year. Fortunately, her son dared to bring his girlfriend home secretly after he went to college. Unlike the others who were caught fooling around at home in junior high or high school. After chatting for a while, Lu Qing hung up the phone and saw Ke walking quickly toward him. She was dressed in a t-shirt, denim shorts and white sneakers, which showed the youthful look of a student. What are you going to do in the institute? Lu Qing asked with concern. Yenjika pursed her lips and lowered her eyebrows. She smiled and said, There are some changes to the training plan. I'll tell you after it's confirmed. Who were you talking to on the phone? My mom. She urged me to take you home to meet my parents. Lu Qing raised his eyebrows and smiled deliberately. He muttered in his heart. Some changes? What changes? He always paid special attention to Coach Yan's affairs. Yenjika, who wanted to say something coquettishly, opened her mouth a few times and only said 3 words with a smile. Okay. Aren't you nervous? Lu Qing asked in surprise. Yenjika was amused. She stared at him and said, It's because you keep telling me that your parents are very nice and satisfied with me. I'm not nervous. You're right. It's good that you're not nervous. Lu Qing asked with expectation. Then when do we go back? How about we find a place to hang out for a few days and have a date? Yenjika raised her eyebrows and looked at him deeply. She took the initiative to suggest, Well, let's hang out in Songqing for a few days. There were too many memories of her and Cheng here. Okay, I'll make a guide later. Let's see what's worth playing and eating in Songqing. Lu Qing didn't really care where they went. What was important was to be with his little fairy. Yenjika tilted her head and outlined her dimples. She waved her hand happily. Let's go to the aquarium in the afternoon. We've been talking about going but we've missed it. Speaking of this, she laughed and said, How much do you remember about marine biology? I've almost forgotten. Lu Qing deliberately covered his face and sighed. Yenjika laughed and said, That's good. Otherwise, I'll look very ignorant. I'll go back and change my clothes and wipe my face first. I have to take my date with Ching seriously. Infected by his girlfriend's unexpected excitement and joy, Lu Cheng was in high spirits. After returning to the dormitory, he quickly packed his luggage and waved goodbye to Zhao Chang, Kai Zongming and the others. It was cool today, not as hot as a few days ago. Lu Cheng waited for a while and saw Yan Zheka coming out with a suitcase. She had changed her clothes. She was wearing a white cotton skirt, a pink jacket, a pair of cute canvas shoes and skin-tight stockings. Her face was covered with light makeup, which made her already beautiful face even more radiant. This was how she looked when she invited Lu Cheng to the aquarium in March last year. Lu Cheng was really amazed at that time, and had a deep impression of her. After taking the suitcase, he said with confusion and amusement, "Ku, are you going to relive the past? You still remember?" Yan Zheka asked in surprise. "Of course, I almost couldn't move my eyes away. How could I forget?" Lu Cheng said with a smile. Yan Zheka chuckled a little complacently, clenched her fist and waved it. "This is a date to make up for last year's regret, so it's still the same. I'm looking forward to it." Lu Cheng replied with a bright smile. Then he coughed and said with expectation, "I've already booked a hotel. Just one room. With my current relationship with Ke, there's no need to secretly book 2 rooms, right?" "Okay." Yan Zheka looked forward and nodded slightly. Chapter 423. Lu Cheng was overjoyed to hear his girlfriend's affirmative answer. He quickened his pace and felt that they had made a breakthrough in their relationship. He didn't continue to mention the accommodation because he didn't want to aggravate her shyness. Instead, he started to ponder. A date to make up for last year's regret? Everything as usual? But I don't remember what I was wearing at that time. Yan Zheka thought about it seriously and burst into laughter. I don't remember either. She only remembered Cheng's tired face, his slightly wrinkled eyebrows, and his movements that made her want to kiss him. Thinking of this, she pursed her lips and lowered her head. Her eyes flickered as she looked at her toes. She wrapped her arms around her boyfriend's arms and leaned closer to him. It's okay. Rough guys wear the same clothes every day. Just put up with it. There's no difference. Lu Cheng mocked himself in the way girls usually did. While talking and laughing, they boarded the school bus and arrived downtown. They found the 5-star hotel that Lu Cheng had booked. While walking to the front desk, Yan Zheka suddenly stopped and looked aside. She pretended to take out her ID card from her bag and said, "You go and check in. I'll wait for you here." As she spoke, an unnatural blush appeared on her cheeks. Seeing this, Lu Cheng understood. He held back his laughter and took the girl's ID card. He said calmly, "Okay." Previously, when he didn't return home at night, he had booked 2 rooms at first and then cancelled them later. Moreover, he had always appeared alone and asked Ke to face the front desk with him. Just one room was indeed difficult for a shy girl like her. Well, after a few more times, she would get used to it. Now she would leave it to a thick-skinned boy. Hee. Putting down their luggage, Lu Cheng came to the front desk and handed over their ID cards. "We booked it online." The girl at the front desk looked up at him, and was suddenly stunned. She blurted out, "Lu Cheng. You know me?" Lu Cheng asked in amusement. "Yes." The girl at the front desk nodded hard. "I watched your national competition. I really liked your performance. You were so awesome and handsome." She was a little excited. "Well, I'm really famous now. I have to wear glasses as a disguise." Lu Cheng thought and smiled. Thank you. Give me your autograph later." The receptionist picked up his ID card and began to check in. She was stunned for a moment and said, "2 people? This is King embarrassing." Lu Cheng said shamelessly, "Yeah, me and my girlfriend." "Oh." The girl at the front desk didn't say anything else. She quickly made a copy of his ID card and completed the check-in procedures. In the end, she handed the form to Lu Cheng and said, "Sign your name here. Also, sign your name on this piece of paper for me. For you, shall we?" After he was done, Lu Cheng took the room card and returned to Yan Zheka. 1506. Yan Zheka looked at the receptionist curiously. What were you talking about? The girl at the front desk has watched the nationals and knows me. She asked me for an autograph, Luqing answered honestly. Yenjika froze for a moment, her face turning bright red at a speed visible to the naked eye. She hurriedly turned around and said shyly to the door, I don't live here anymore. The first time she shared a room with Chung, she met his fans. I am too ashamed to meet them. If I had known, I would have checked in alone and let Ching sneak into the room. What are you afraid of? We are perfectly justified. Luqing comforted her with a smile. We have already gotten the room card. Others have already begun to think what they want. Just let them be. Yenjika had the mentality to throw away everything. She restrained her emotions and followed her boyfriend to the 15th floor, putting their luggage in the room. What are we having for lunch? Luqing looked at the cloudy sky outside the window and asked. Their exam was the first round, which ended at 10 o'clock. It was only 12 o'clock now. Yenjika didn't think, as if she had already thought of the answer. Spicy crab on the tripod. The one where we had our first date. How could Luqing forget this? Yeah. I want to reminisce. Yenjika nodded cutely. After a little tidying up, they went out hand in hand and took a taxi to the place where they had their first date last year. Luckily, the door was still open. Luqing looked at the sign of spicy crab on the tripod and felt happy for the place that carried his beautiful memories. He definitely hoped that it would stay there forever and never change. So did Yenjika. Her dimples deepened and her smile became sweeter. When they entered the restaurant, the waiter was just about to greet them. Before he could say anything, Luqing saw the price tag and said quickly, the one that costs 199 yuan. 12 crab, hand-fried noodles, shrimp dumplings, beef. The waiter was stunned for a few seconds and said, Please slow down. I'll remember it. Shouldn't you order the crab first, and then check the other options on the menu after sitting down? Yenjika couldn't hide her smile. These were all the dishes they had ordered on their first date, but the quantity was more than double. Chung still remembers. Her eyes softened and she deliberately said jokingly, Wow, you're getting better at answering first. Hey, they're all the dishes we ordered last time. Luqing led Ku to a seat and sat down. You still remember? Yenjika rested her chin on one hand and looked at him with bright eyes. Luqing chuckled and said, At that time, I observed what you liked to eat and what you didn't like to eat, so I had some impression of the dishes you ordered. At first it was a little vague, and I only had a vague memory of it. Now that I am here, I remember it. Listening to her boyfriend showing off, Yenjika's eyes welled up with tears. She quickly turned her head to the side and held back the throbbing in her heart. After a few seconds, she changed the topic and said coquettishly, I also paid attention to what you didn't like, but you didn't eat anything. This shows that I'm easy to take care of. I eat whatever I'm given. Luqing smiled and praised himself. Well, if little Ming was opposite, he would probably say, Do you eat sh*t if I give you sh*t? But Ku would definitely not do that. Then I'll give you the leftovers in the future. Yenjika tried to make her tone light. As usual, the two ate to their heart's content. Their appetite was so big that they ordered 2 more dishes. The waiter was stunned. He saw the boss and insisted on giving them VIP cards. In such a mid-priced restaurant with no luxurious dishes, the two of them could eat more than 3,000 yuan. No matter where they were, they could get the VIP treatment. After finishing their meal, Luqing and Yenjika walked along the route of their first date. Chung, do you still remember where you held my hand? The girl asked with great interest. Luqing seriously recalled and said with self-mockery, I didn't pay attention to where we were and where we were. My mind was full of whether to hold your hand, how to hold it, and whether you would shake it off. When we really held hands, I was so excited and happy that I forgot the directions. I only had you and your hand in my heart. It was like walking on clouds, so light that I wanted to fly. Yenjika pursed her lips and rolled her eyes. She seemed to really feel her boyfriend's state at that time. It was as if a sudden joy hit her heart. She turned her head and looked at the side of the street. She was actually a bit shaken by the decision she made in the morning. What about you? Do you still remember where we tied the knot? Luqing asked in reply. Yenjika rolled her eyes and pouted. If you don't remember, how can I remember? At that time, I was very nervous. My mind was on your hand that kept leaning towards me. I wondered if you were going to hold my hand, how I should react, whether I would hurt you, whether I was reserved enough, whether I was... In short, my mind was full of random thoughts. I was lucky that I didn't bump into anyone else. Later on, I realized that you were stupid and silly, and even held hands foolishly. My heart softened, and I inexplicably took the initiative to hold your hand. Speaking of this, both of them completely recalled the naivety, ignorance, sweetness, and passion of that time. They smiled at each other and raised their hands that had been intertwined since they came out of the meal. Although they didn't have the mentality of not knowing where to go when holding hands, they held hands more calmly and firmly. There was a faint sense of permanence. In this way, the two walked side by side on the street, warm and sweet. Do you remember that we bought a fresh cream cake here? Lu Qing smiled and pointed at the sign of Mimi bread. Yenjika bit her lip and chuckled. Not only do I remember that, but I also remember that someone lied to me. Lu Qing was at a loss. Someone told me that the fresh cream cake here was not so sweet and was suitable for me. He said he found it on the internet. Yenjika hummed. The sweetness was just right, but I couldn't find this shop on the internet. Lu Qing suddenly realized what was going on. He smiled embarrassedly. I came here to check it out and try it. At that time, didn't you say that you still need to adjust your mentality and not fully prepared? I was afraid that if I said it, it would be like forcing you to be moved and giving you too much pressure. Before he finished, Yenjika's eyes were already red and rippling. She suddenly took a step forward and threw herself into his arms. She hugged him tightly and buried her face in his shoulder. What's wrong? Lu Qing was startled. Yenjika tried to hold back her tears. Can't I be moved? Lu Qing stroked the girl's glossy black hair and smiled contentedly. It was always a joyful thing to get a response for one's efforts. Let's buy another fresh cream cake later and eat it together tonight. After a while, Yenjika withdrew from Lu Qing's arms and her expression returned to normal. Okay. Lu Qing pulled her into the bakery. After buying the cake, they took a taxi to the ocean aquarium. This time, there was no unexpected situation to interrupt them. Look, this is a starfish. After tearing it into pieces, each piece can become a new starfish. Lu Qing pointed to a creature behind the glass. Yenjika was surprised. Didn't you say that you had almost forgotten your marine biology? When I was waiting for you, I crammed it again. Lu Qing answered complacently, and pointed to a kind of marine creature. It is. Damn it, I forgot. I failed to show off and became a clown. Haha. Yenjika covered her mouth and laughed until tears came out. After a long time, she wiped her eyes and said, there should be an introduction beside it. If you really can't find it, I'll allow you to search it on your phone, commentator Lu. They laughed and laughed until the aquarium was closed. They found the restaurant where they had their second date and enjoyed dinner. Lu Qing pretended to go to the bathroom and went downstairs to buy a bouquet of flowers as usual. Beauty, you dropped something. He put his left hand behind his back and smiled at Yenjika. Familiar lines and familiar scenes. Yenjika opened her mouth little by little, and her eyes were covered with tears. She forced a smile. Flowers? Yes, you dropped it. Lu Qing bowed slightly like a gentleman and handed the flowers to the girl. Yenjika held the flowers and quickly closed her eyes, pretending to smell the fragrance. After a long time, she looked at Lu Qing and said, but I dropped something else. What? Lu Qing asked with a smile. Yenjika's eyes flashed like water. She pursed her lips and turned her head. Boyfriend. Lu Qing burst into laughter and directly sat next to the girl. Their fingers were intertwined. While he was happy, he inexplicably felt that Ko was a little clingy today. After dinner and a walk, Yenjika and Lu Qing returned to the hotel with the flowers and cake. The light in the room was dim. Outside the window, there was a river of stars. It was quiet and private. Lu Qing, who had shared a bed many times, couldn't help but think as if he was looking forward to something. At this moment, Yenjika put the bouquet on the table and sat on the edge of the bed. She touched her calf and stomach and said softly, "I feel so sore when I walk. Chung, come and help me massage my feet. Pinch my legs." This was a common thing between the two of them, so there was nothing strange about it. However, as she spoke, she suddenly blushed. Unable to hide her shyness, she lowered her head and looked at her right hand that was supporting the bed. Her right hand was as beautiful as a budding flower. Lu Cheng's heart skipped a beat when he heard this. Chapter 424. Was Ku inviting someone to join her? While thinking of this, he forgot about the fresh cream cake and threw it aside. He walked to the bedside, squatted down and held Yinjika's left ankle. Just as he touched her silky smooth skin, he suddenly heard the girl's skin and muscles trembling. He heard her heart beating faster and faster. He heard her body temperature gradually increasing. This reaction was completely different from the usual before a massage. Dong dong dong. Every heartbeat of Yinjika's seemed to resonate with Lu Cheng's heart, making his mouth dry and his body hot. He was inexplicably looking forward to something. There was no other contact, no other ambiguity. He already felt his blood vessels swelling as he tried to do it as usual. During this process, Yinjika's heart beat faster and faster. Lu Cheng held his breath, feeling that he was about to turn into a werewolf. Dong dong dong. The slightest provocation was like the last straw that broke the camel's back, like the call from the little fairy, like the starting gun. Lu Cheng suddenly lost control and lowered his head. This place has been sacrificed to the divine beast. The night was short, but the passion was long. After a series of ups and downs, Lu Cheng woke up under the urging of his biological clock. His nose was filled with a faint fragrance, and his body was warm and soft. Everything was like a beautiful dream. Recalling the events of last night, he unconsciously revealed a silly smile. He only felt that his body and mind were satisfied, and his spirit was perfect. Everything in this world was so beautiful. He raised his head slightly and looked at Yinjika, who was curled up in his arms like a child. He looked at her painful and pure expression, which made him want to protect her. He looked at her beautiful face, which was set off by her long black hair. He felt the girl's delicate skin, and the touch that he couldn't bear to part with. He felt her clinging to him, as if she was afraid of losing him. Lu Cheng felt that his heart was about to melt. He could still hear the words Cheng echoing in his ears. This was the fusion of spirit and flesh. This was the other person I was closest to. This is the girl I want to protect for the rest of my life. He lowered his head devoutly and kissed the girl's long eyelashes and red lips. His hands began to move unconsciously, making the early morning hostility even more fierce. I won't do it again. Yinjika hit him in a daze and mumbled. She turned over and fell asleep again. It took Lu Cheng a great deal of willpower to get out of bed. He even began to worry about how upset Ku would feel if she didn't see him when she woke up. He almost didn't want to go for his morning exercise. Is this what Ku always says? Long love is short of breath? He laughed at himself, changed his clothes and went out. He found a place nearby and began to train. Both his mind and body were very excited. Although he had slept for less than 2 hours last night, he did not feel tired at all. People are in high spirits when faced with happy events. After finishing the rest of the internal training, Lu Cheng once again tried to comprehend the force concentration. He felt that his willpower had become stronger and firmer. He felt that no one or anything could defeat him. This is the life I want to protect. Ice and fire intertwined, embracing each other in a balanced manner. Amidst the surging and gushing power, it drew the response of the most minute part of his body. The cold light flickered, and the dark flames danced. Lu Cheng finally grasped the signs in the perfect reflection of his soul. He grasped the minute details that made up every cell, and every bone and blood in his body. This is the root pulp. He opened his eyes, feeling even happier. Grasping the root pulp meant that he was beginning to reach the inhuman realm. This was not a sufficient condition for a breakthrough, but a necessary condition. Since returning at the beginning of May, after nearly 2 months of training, his physical quality had reached the level of the top 6th pin. He originally thought that he would have to wait for a while for the next improvement. Who knew that after a night of dancing with fish and dragon, his mind was settled, his spirit was refreshed, and his willpower was restored. Naturally, his level increased again. There are still 6 months until the end of the year. I have a good chance of pushing that threshold. Luqing thought happily. Then he put away his stance and hurried back, not wanting to waste a single second. The curtains were closed, but the room was still dark. A strange but exciting smell filled the air. Luqing saw that Yenjika was still asleep. He sucked on his fingers, and the smile on his face grew wider. He felt more peaceful and happy. He quickly took off his clothes, took a quick shower, and got into bed. He hugged his soft and fragrant fairy and slept with her until noon. When he woke up, Yenjika's eyelashes fluttered, and she slowly opened her eyes. Then she enjoyed a warm wake-up kiss. Morning, no good afternoon. Luqing put his elbows on the bed and smiled in a low voice. Yenjika's eyebrows curved, and she reached out her hands to hold his neck. She smiled sweetly. Good afternoon, my dear. She no longer felt embarrassed to call him that. Just as Luqing was considering whether to eat first or do something, Yenjika pursed her lips, and her eyes wavered. She gathered her courage and said, Chung, I have something to tell you. The training plan of our school has to be brought forward 1 year. She didn't sound determined at all. Instead, she showed some confusion and uncertainty, as if she was asking for help and an answer. Chapter 425. Luqing, whose mind was filled with sweetness and happiness, couldn't digest what Yenjika had just mentioned. He was momentarily at a loss. When he came to his senses and understood what was going on, he was instantly struck by a huge sense of loss and sadness. His heart felt as if it was tightly gripped by an invisible hand. A year in advance? That is to say, in 2 months at most, or at least 1 month, Ku will go to a foreign country? The two of them had just joined spiritually and were glued to each other like glue. Right now, Luqing only wished that he could be with his little fairy every minute and every second of every day. Just the thought of her going to stay at her grandfather's house for a few days during the summer and being separated from him made him feel lost. Every day felt like a year, not to mention that they would suddenly be separated from each other for a few years. At this moment, Luqing's emotions were surging and boiling. He almost blurted out that he should let Ke give up the opportunity and choose to stay so that she wouldn't die. But when he saw the confused and struggling look in her eyes, he suddenly restrained himself and thought of more. This wasn't something he didn't expect at all. He was even mentally prepared for it. It was just that it was suddenly brought forward by a year. This wasn't a reluctant attempt by Ku after they started dating. It was a dream and a plan that had been made long before they met, in March of last year. She had already discussed this matter with him and obtained his consent. She was born with a deficiency. No matter how hard she tried, she couldn't enter the dance stage. Her life's dream had slowly shifted to this matter in the past 5 or 6 years. She came from a well-off family. Even if she didn't do anything in the future, she wouldn't have to worry about her quality of life. The reason why she wanted to study abroad wasn't because she wanted to get a diploma, but because she had such an opportunity. An opportunity to follow the world's top scholars, an opportunity to roam the ocean. The Ji family was very influential in China, but in another big country, their reputation wasn't so good. Once this opportunity was missed, there might not be another one. When they first started dating, didn't Empress Dowager also make a request? 2 people need to sacrifice a certain amount to break in, but she didn't want to see Ke sacrifice her dream for me. Yenjika opened her clear eyes and looked at Luqing with inexplicable anxiety. She was swayed, distressed, and struggling because of his silence. If Chung wants me to stay, what should I say? I will. After the crazy idea she had last night, she decided to try the illusory probability and leave everything to God. The girl felt that she had once again lowered her bottom line. Her heart was filled with sweetness and bitterness. Since ancient times, love was the most torturous. At this moment, Luqing squeezed out a smile and tried to speak in a casual tone. A year earlier? That's pretty good. Doesn't that mean we can come back a year earlier? Previously, I was worried that I would only be able to fly over and spend a few days with you after you left in your 4th year. Now it's just right. My 3rd year is mainly to guide them and do my own preparation. There are very few competitions that I need to participate in. As for my studies, the dean has already told me that he will work hard to ensure that I graduate and successfully obtain a certificate. I will become the school's golden signboard. It doesn't matter how much I skip classes and take exams. Isn't it just a matter of getting a visa and traveling for more than 10 hours? Isn't it simple? Empress Dowager will probably stay with you for a while at first. After that, you can leave it to me. I will fly over once a month and stay for a week or two. When you are on vacation, we can still go to the northern land to see the aurora. It's even more convenient. We can still travel to those special places. Yenjika stood there in a daze as she listened to his slightly long-winded and confused nagging. Her clear and beautiful eyes were gradually covered with tears. Also, my master has said that one needs to accumulate more knowledge and experience before reaching the physical invulnerability stage. Only then can one have a chance to leap over the dragon gate and soar into the sky. When I go over to accompany you, I can also experience the American martial arts. They are the center of the Western world and have different characteristics from our martial arts. They definitely have stronger aspects than us. Before Lu Qing could finish his words, Yenjika suddenly propped herself up and hugged him tightly. She buried her face in his well-defined chest and said in a choked voice, "Chung, I don't want to go. I don't want to leave you. Chung, Chung." Her voice was like a reenactment of their first meeting. Lu Cheng's heart completely softened and almost melted. He took the opportunity to lie down and let the girl lie on his body. He reached out and stroked her hair that was slightly messy due to the sweat from last night. He smiled gently and said, "Silly girl, you really don't want to go?" The more sad and sentimental she was, the more she wouldn't cry. When Yenjika raised her head, she had already held back the throbbing of crying. Her pink lips moved a few times, but she couldn't give a definite answer. That master was very old. It was said that his health was getting worse year by year. If they missed this opportunity, not to mention whether he would still be alive, there would most likely be no more opportunities. Once such a situation occurred, the outstanding disciples he taught would definitely set up their own schools due to their differences in academic knowledge. Sticking out her tongue, they tangled intensely. Because she was not wearing underwear, her body was exposed when she moved. Lu Qing caught a glimpse of her from the corner of his eye. The beautiful scene of red and white was reflected in his mind and ignited his blood. As they kissed, Yenjika suddenly paused and hit Lu Qing shyly. "You pervert, when I'm so moved you can." She was too embarrassed to finish her sentence. Lu Qing could only laugh dryly and say, "I can't help it." Pfft. Yenjika burst into laughter. Her previous haze was gone. She propped herself up slightly and looked at Lu Qing with her charming eyes. She suggested softly as if she had made up her mind. "Chung, let's get married." Lu Qing was dumbfounded and confused. He asked back, "Are you proposing to me?" "Yes." Yenjika nodded like a chicken pecking rice. Lu Qing came to his senses and looked at Yenjika, who was serious. He asked again, "Really? This is not a joke. This is not a drill?" "Yes." Yenjika's eyes were gentle and her smile contained both determination and impulse. She counted with her fingers and said, "First, we are both 18 years old. We are adults and can get married. There is no such thing as late marriage and late childbirth in China. Second, our household registers are in school. Before the holidays, we can borrow them," Yenjika said tirelessly. Her dimples deepened as if she was brewing a jar of wine. Lu Qing was drunk even before he drank. The girl took a breath and blushed. She looked at Lu Qing shyly but firmly. "Third, I'm not forcing you to do anything or wait for me. I'm just making a promise. I can protect myself until the end. I want to tell you that I've made up my mind. I'm willing. You're the only other half in my mind. I'm willing to marry you. I want to be your husband and wife. I'm willing too." Before Yenjika asked, the emotional Lu Qing said, "Then let's go back to school now and find an excuse to borrow our household register. Then go buy a ring. How can we not have a ring when we get married?" "Yes." Yenjika's eyes were covered with mist. She nodded briskly. "This has nothing to do with other things. It belongs to the two of us, Chung and Ku's wedding. How can one not be impulsive and crazy in their youth? Chapter 426. After eating the cake and desserts they bought last night, Lu Cheng and Yen Zheka walked out of the hotel hand in hand and took a bus back to the old campus. They first bought a few sachets from the nearby stores, then slowly walked to the traffic point and returned to the new campus of Songqing University, where they had lived for 4 whole semesters. When the scenery of Weishui Lake, the teaching building, the long bridge, and the lakeside corridor came into view, Yen Zheka felt an inexplicable sadness in her heart. She leaned closer to her ex-boyfriend, who was now her husband. Lu Qing sensed Cuckoo's melancholy at the thought of parting. He wrapped his right arm around her shoulders and pulled her into his embrace. He comforted her with his actions and body temperature. In the quiet but not depressing atmosphere, the couple got off the bus and walked to the administration building with their hands clasped together. They returned the residence page to the management teacher before the end of the day. The excuse they used was the truth. Yen Zheka's participation in the joint training program had to be brought forward by a year, and the school had to help with various procedures. They didn't have time to get a visa to travel abroad, so they had to return the residence page in advance. As for the American visa that Lu Qing wanted, he didn't plan to get it himself. He planned to get it done through the Ice God sect, which was safer and more convenient. If there was something that required his cooperation, then he would ask. Otherwise, if a dangerous guy who was close to the inhuman stage entered the country, the inspection would be very strict. When everything was done, it was close to noon. They came to the school restaurant, opened the door of the reserved room, and saw Li Liantong, Shi Xiangyang, and Zhong Yanru. Since the first time he treated them to a meal, Lu Qing and his ex-girlfriend's roommates often had chances to meet. For example, when they had a meal in the dormitory, if it was outside the school, they would ask him to be their bodyguard. If it was inside the school, once it was over, he would come to pick Yen Zheka up, take a walk, and then go on a date. After winning the national championship, the couple was even asked to eat 3 times by them. Therefore, they were not strangers to Lu Qing. At this time, they all smiled and greeted him. "Hello, great martial artist." Lu Qing was used to being teased. He raised his hand and waved lightly in response. "Hello, comrades." The girls burst into laughter at the same time. After they had calmed down and sat down, they threw the menus to Lu Qing for him to choose. Then they turned to Yen Zheka and started talking about her study abroad. Why so sudden? Li Liantong maintained a dignified and quiet posture. "Cuckoo, if that's the case, how many years will you be gone for?" Zhong Yanru, who knew about this beforehand, asked with concern. "Woo-woo, I can't bear to part with my fragrant, fair, and soft big Cuckoo. Although I already have a boyfriend, I still love you the most." The tall and slender Shi Xiangyang, whose eyes were slightly out of focus, said half jokingly and half sadly. She was the second one in Yen Zheka's dormitory to be single. She claimed that she couldn't take it anymore after being fed dog food for 2 semesters. Following Shi Xiangyang's words, the atmosphere suddenly became gloomy. The sensitive and delicate girls recalled the bits and pieces they had spent together in the past 2 years, and their eyes reddened a little. Yen Zheka forced a smile and said, "A year early is good. This means that I can come back a year early. At that time, Dirty Tong and Cabbage might still be studying and haven't graduated." Li Liantong and Shi Xiangyang had 7 years of clinical experience. They still had a long way to go. "Maybe you already have a child, and we haven't graduated yet." Ever since she became familiar with Lu Qing, Li Liantong's pretense had decreased, and she could say such shocking words from time to time. After joking for a while, she suddenly sighed and said, "What should I do? I feel like I've fallen out of love. I can't see Cuckoo, who always blushes because of my teasing. I can't observe how you fall in love to gain experience. I can't. As she spoke, her voice gradually became softer, and she actually choked with sobs. This immediately made Zhong Yanru and Shi Xiangyang's eyes moisten, and they said similar words. The atmosphere became more and more sad, and Lu Qing also felt a little uncomfortable. No matter how good and confident he had said before, he panicked when he was concerned. How could he not have some feelings for the departure that was coming in a month's time? However, He concealed it very well, and his attitude was very proper. He didn't want to affect his little fairy's mood because of this. He exhaled, stood up and said, "I'll go out and order, and also use the washroom." This kind of scene was really not suitable for the waiter to come in and order. Okay. Yenjika held back her emotions and nodded. After Lu Cheng went out, Li Liantong picked up a tissue and wiped the corners of her eyes. She decided to change the topic and liven up the atmosphere. She curled her lips, looked at Yenjika, and squeezed out her signature smile. "Cuckoo, I remember you packed up and left 2 days ago. Ruru also said that I should have informed you on the day the exam ended. So?" Zhong Yanru asked blankly. Without waiting for Yenjika to speak, Li Liantong chuckled and said, "You left 2 days ago. Why did you suddenly come back to the school to treat us to a meal? You were nearby these 2 days, right? What did you do?" When a couple is about to separate, they can't help but break through their previous boundaries. Why are your thoughts so dirty? Yenjika's sadness dissipated, and shyness welled up. She habitually interrupted Li Liantong, wanting to change the topic. "Don't explain. Any explanation is a cover-up. If you don't believe me, you can ask Cabbage and Ruru. They definitely don't believe that you can still control yourself at this time." Li Liantong pointed at Shi Xiangyang and Zhong Yanru, who had a look of realization. Seeing Yenjika's shyness, she blinked her eyes and lowered her voice. "I don't want to ask about your specific progress. I'm just curious. You know, girls tend to have more imagination than guys when they write about pure love. There are always some weird positions, no diverging. I've seen many stories about powerful martial artists. They deduced the application of their various abilities at that time and broke through the sky. I just want to ask you, is it like this, for example?" "Don't ask." After Yenjika understood, she immediately interrupted Dirty Tong's words. Her pretty face became as bright as the sun, and she was so beautiful that it was out of this world. Images flashed in her mind, and she felt her cheeks heat up. Seeing this, Li Liantong laughed out loud. "See, I wasn't wrong, right? If Ku and the rest didn't do anything, they wouldn't have said don't ask, just now. Instead, they would have said, how would I know? Sai, our favorite cabbage has really been taken by that guy outside." "You tricked me." Yenjika blurted out. She was at a loss and embarrassed. "I actually got tricked by Dirty Tong and admitted it myself. It's mainly because you have a guilty conscience." Li Liantong covered her mouth and laughed. After coming back to their senses and understanding the situation, Shi Xiangyang and Zhong Yanru couldn't help but laugh. They either leaned on the table or lowered their heads, laughing heartily. Infected by them, Yenjika gradually started laughing as well. She felt that she really wasn't cut out for doing bad things, unless Cheng brought her along and helped to cover it up. At this moment, Lu Cheng came back from the washroom. He pushed the door open and said in surprise, "What are you guys laughing about?" Shi Xiangyang, Zhong Yanru and the rest looked at each other. Recalling Li Liantong's example, they laughed even harder and almost slammed the table and chairs. Yenjika was also embarrassed and amused. She couldn't say anything. Lu Cheng looked at them blankly, and felt that he really couldn't understand. These 4 girls were so sad and sorrowful just a moment ago. Why are they smiling so brightly and happily in the blink of an eye? Girls are so complicated. The meal was sometimes sad and sometimes cheerful. However, all banquets must come to an end. Amidst the mess of cups and plates, Lu Cheng called the waiter, and paid the bill with his phone. After leaving the restaurant, they stood at the door. Zhong Yanru teared up again and said, "Could take care of yourself over there. Remember to come and play with us when you come back during the holidays." Okay. Yenjika tried her best not to cry and simply nodded in response. Just as Shi Xiangyang was about to speak, she suddenly lost her voice. After taking a deep breath, she said, "Could keep in touch when you're free. Now is the age of the internet. Everyone can still chat frequently. You and your Ching have to be good. We're waiting for you to get married and give us red packets." "That's right. I have high hopes for you guys. You'll definitely make it to your wedding day." Li Liantong imitated Yenjika's light-hearted tone. However, the redness at the corner of her eyes and the mist in her eyes had already deeply betrayed her. After a moment of sadness, Lu Cheng and Yenjika bade farewell to them. They looked at each other and held hands again. If Dirty Tong and the others know that they can give us red packets now, they'll definitely be shocked. Yenjika smiled with complicated emotions. More than that, it's inevitable that there will be a floor full of glass shards. Lu Cheng sighed and smiled faintly. After that, the newly married couple remeasured the many places they had left behind memories with their footsteps. From the lakeside where the grass was long and the birds were flying, to the desolate and vast western district, from the long bridge where they often met to the teaching building where they had lessons every day. In the next 2.5 days, they rarely went out. Other than eating and practicing martial arts, they stayed in the hotel room. There were even 2 times when they directly ordered takeout. One of them had abnormal physical strength and was full of vigor, while the other was bursting with emotions and was indulging in youthfulness and passion to their heart's content. They couldn't wait to become conjoined twins. On Monday, June 30th, Yenjika received the materials sent by Yenkai and Jimingyu. She handed them over to the school office and embarked on the journey back to Xioshan with Lu Cheng. When there was a need here, she would come back to cooperate. However, at that time, it would most likely be Empress Dowager instead of Lu Cheng who would accompany her. June 30th, 5:40 p.m. The high-speed train was speeding and was about to arrive at Xioshan Station. Lu Cheng didn't play with his phone. He tilted his head and looked at the exhausted fairy who was sleeping. Thinking of the crazy days these days, his heart was full of tenderness and sweetness. He felt that his wife was so beautiful, and he liked her so much. At first he put his arm around Yenjika's shoulder. Then he felt that it wasn't enough, so he slid down to hold her slender waist. Then he felt that it wasn't enough, so he leaned over and held her completely in his arms, breathing in her fragrance. After a while, Yenjika woke up from her sleep with trembling eyelashes. She looked up and saw Lu Cheng's familiar face. The loss caused by the nightmare immediately disappeared. She reached out and hugged her husband's waist. After hugging quietly for a while, their phones rang at the same time. It was from each other's mother. "Hello, Mom. What's up?" Lu Cheng answered the phone in surprise and lowered his voice. Yenjika beside him also spoke in a similar tone. Qifeng nagged. "You're coming back soon, right? We were going to eat at home tonight, but your grandpa asked us to come over. He said that Erzi wanted to treat us. He heard that you're back, so he insisted on treating us." Chapter 427. Seriously, they didn't even know to postpone it for a day. "I'm already drooling over your home-cooked dishes." Lu Cheng flattered. Qifeng smiled proudly. "Isn't that right? I've already bought the groceries. Let's talk about it when you get home. We'll go there when both of you are back." Okay. Lu Cheng hung up the phone and turned to look at his little wife, no, his leader. He smiled and said, "It's my mom. What a coincidence." "Me too." Yenjika smiled and shook the phone. "Empress Dowager and my dad are at the square in front of the station." Lu Cheng thought for a while and said with a smile, "Now I don't have to avoid them and can send you out directly. Ku, do you think I should call you Mom and Dad?" Yenjika opened her mouth and pursed her lips. She glanced at Lu Cheng and said, "I don't care if you have the nerve to call me that." While they were flirting, the train stopped at the station. Lu Cheng stood up and took Yenjika's suitcase down with one hand as if it was a child's toy. Carrying the luggage, dragging the suitcase and pulling his wife, Lu Cheng walked out of the train in high spirits and entered the arrival hall. When they were about to go out, they saw the sun outside, the bright sky and the steaming heat. He and Yenjika looked at each other subconsciously and sighed suddenly in their hearts. These dreamy, beautiful and crazy days were over. Scenes flashed through their minds one after another, and the two of them fell silent. However, they pulled each other even tighter and leaned closer together. Out of the hall and turning around the road, Lu Cheng's eyes suddenly opened up. The square was dyed golden red in the last brilliance of the setting sun. The elegant Yan Kai and the mature and beautiful Ji Mingyu were waiting a few steps away. They were holding hands and holding umbrellas. "Your parents have such a good relationship." Lu Cheng broke the silence and praised from the bottom of his heart. They had been together for more than 20 years. Yenjika raised her head proudly and said with a smile, "Young man, work hard. They are your role model and goal. All goals are meant to be surpassed." Lu Qing chuckled. While talking, the two of them had already approached Yan Kai, who had a slightly complicated look in his eyes, and Ji Mingyu, who was smiling. Lu Qing somewhat guiltily called out, "Uncle, Auntie, Dad, Mom." Yenjika didn't let go of Lu Cheng's hand, and just called them like a spoiled child. Just as Ji Mingyu was about to speak, she glanced at her daughter and her heart skipped a beat. Although Ku's expression hid her tiredness, her entire person was delicate and radiant. Even as her mother, she had a strong sense of amazement. She thought about how her daughter was going to leave the country soon, and was about to leave her boyfriend. As someone who had been there before, she understood. However, she didn't blame Lu Cheng. After he entered the dance stage and won the youth tournament in one fell swoop, she felt that the two little guys would steal the forbidden fruit at any time. Because of this, she even reminded her daughter to pay attention to safety measures. She didn't expect that this kid could hold back until recently. Then she remembered that her daughter didn't give up her dream because of this and obviously got support and understanding from her boyfriend. Ji Mingyu looked at Lu Qing more highly, and was more satisfied with him. "Now that you have a boyfriend, you don't want to be close to your mother anymore?" She looked at her daughter and joked, lifting her left arm. Yenjika's pretty face blushed. She let go of Lu Cheng's hand and took half a step forward, intimately hugging Empress Dowager's arm. She said in a sweet voice, "No." Because of the private engagement, she felt a little guilty toward her parents. Ji Mingyu turned to Lu Cheng and said with a warm smile, "Little Lu, where is your house? Let's go together. We'll send you back on the way. It's troublesome to take a taxi." "Okay, thank you, Auntie." Lu Cheng didn't reject the olive branch from his mother-in-law at all. After saying that, he quietly mouthed to Yenjika, indicating that what he wanted to say was actually, "Thank you, Mom." Yenjika wrinkled her nose and gave him a coquettish stare. The Yen family's car was parked outside the square in front of the station. Along the way, Ji Mingyu and Yenjika walked in the center with umbrellas. Yan Kai and Lu Qing accompanied them, listening to the mother and daughter chat, and occasionally adding a few words. After putting down their luggage and getting on the SUV, Lu Qing and Yenjika sat in the back, and clasped their hands together again. After the car started, Yan Kai looked back at his daughter and said with a smile, "Ko, your grandparents want you to live in Junkei County for a while to accompany them. They're afraid that after you go abroad, they won't be able to see you again." "How can that be? I always come back during the long holidays. It's almost the same as now." Yenjika subconsciously defended herself. "Your grandparents mean that it's not convenient for them to make phone calls." Yan Kai smiled gently. Yenjika looked up and said, "Then they can video chat online. They can see me directly. Well, this time I have to teach them how to do it." Listening to their conversation, Lu Cheng was a little disappointed. Ku was going to stay at her grandparents' house for a few days. Didn't that mean that he would be separated from her for a while? Their time together before going abroad would be reduced a lot. At this time, Yenjika turned to look at him. Her face was flushed, but she said firmly, "Dad, didn't my grandparents say that they want to see Cheng? I'll go with him then." Ji Mingyu, who was driving, couldn't help but laugh. She was both disdainful and proud. She didn't know whether it was a good thing or a bad thing to have a daughter who looked like her. Yan Kai was silent for a while, and then said with a complicated smile, "Okay." Lu Qing was pleasantly surprised and his disappointment disappeared. He couldn't help but pull his little fairy's hand towards him. They looked at each other and smiled. Yan Kai asked, "When are you going?" "A few more days. I have to go to Cheng's house." Yenjika's eyes were dizzy, and her voice was getting lower and lower. An ugly daughter-in-law has to meet her parents-in-law, and she's already a legal daughter-in-law. Although Yan Kai was mentally prepared, he still felt inexplicably melancholy. He always felt that his daughter was not grown up yet. How could she be abducted? How could she be at the stage of meeting her parents-in-law? Then you have to prepare well. I didn't know these things back then, and no one taught me. I almost made a fool of myself the first time I came here. Ji Mingyu recalled and said angrily. Yan Kai thought for a while and said, say hello to Lu's parents for me. In Xioshan, unless it was a blind date, in-laws were not allowed to meet when the younger generation was meeting their parents. Only when the young couple had a stable relationship and were ready to talk about marriage would they have a few special gatherings to finalize details such as the date. Thank you, Uncle Yan. Lu Qing hurriedly returned the greeting on behalf of his parents. Not long after, Ji Mingyu parked the car across the road according to his instructions. Waving goodbye to his real wife, mother-in-law, and father-in-law, Lu Qing stepped into the familiar yet strange neighborhood. The general environment and layout of the buildings here had not changed. More than 10 years felt like a day, as if it had been sealed in time. Most of the pedestrians were the same, but there were more mottled faces, more white hair, and more recently born faces. The renovation of the new house had been completed at the end of April, but it would be open for a while. According to Qi Fang, they would choose a date to move in October. Along the way, Lu Qing was greeted by people. Some people treated him as someone else's child and scolded the teenager beside them, which made him laugh secretly. He walked briskly up the stairs, took out the key and opened the door. Before he entered, he saw his mother coming over with a smile. You're fast. Uncle Yan sent me back. Lu Qing answered frankly. He glanced at the living room and asked, where's Dad? Him. Qi Fang replied unhappily. Since he became the factory director, he has been busier than before. He said that he has to live up to the trust of others. He's not home until 6:30 every day. Don't mention your dad. Then she smiled and said, when is Zheka coming? Your mother has to be prepared in advance. Her daughter-in-law was coming, so she took the initiative to change Yanzheka to Zheka. Zheka is fine these days. It's up to you. Lu Qing struck while the iron was hot. How about tomorrow? No, I don't know if she'll like the food I prepared for you. I have to do a big cleaning and tidy up the house. I can't see her in such a mess, Qi Fang said to herself. Also, I have to call your aunt and ask her to send some vegetables from her farm. Zheka comes from a good family and must be tired of expensive food. She has to try something new. Listening to his mother's nagging and feeling how much she valued her daughter-in-law, Lu Qing felt warm and couldn't help but laugh. What are you laughing at? Qi Fang took out her phone and didn't have time to make the call. I'm happy for Zheka. Lu Qing replied humorously. Qi Fang smiled. I've asked around. Zheka is a good girl. She's gentle and pretty. She was much better than you when we were in number 1 middle school. Didn't you always say good things about her in my ear? At the mention of number 1 middle school, she suddenly sighed. Chung, when you were in high school, I was worried that you wouldn't be able to find a girlfriend. Ah, I wasn't a boring and introverted person in high school. Was I that bad? Lu Qing didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He didn't know what to say. Double critical damage from his own mother. After Qi Fang contacted Qi Yan and set the date for the day after tomorrow, Lu Qing took out his phone and sent a message to Yan Zhika, whose name had been changed to Madam Wife. My mom said the day after tomorrow. She values you so much that she even asked me what you like to eat. She wants to go to the market to buy it again. She even asked my aunt to send the vegetables that she planted at home over. She also wants to do a big cleaning and do your hair. For the sake of family harmony, he didn't hesitate to praise his mother and daughter-in-law in front of them. Yan Zhika replied with a blushing expression. Auntie is so nice. You have to call her mom. Snickering expression. Lu Qing replied. Go away, I don't have a husband like you. Yan Zhika sent an expression of blowing a whistle for a red card, followed by an expression of lowering her head and smiling shyly. I'm still not used to calling you that. My face was burning from typing just now. It's so embarrassing. But it's not the first time you've called me that these days. Raising eyebrows expression. Lu Qing replied. That's when I'm in a daze. After sending this message, Yan Zhika suddenly came to her senses. Her face was as red as a tomato and she replied bitterly, I'm not going to talk to you anymore. After a while, Lu Jixing called and asked Qi Fang and Lu Qing to go downstairs directly. He said that Erzi would drive to pick them up. Not bad, Qi Fang said and pulled her son out of the house. They went downstairs and arrived at the entrance of the community. Erzi drove a big Benz this time. He was smoking and chatting with Lu Cheng's father, Lu Jisheng. When he saw Lu Cheng, he immediately put on a smile and greeted him. Cheng, I finally meet you. You're the pride of our Lu family. The sky was getting dark. Lu Cheng glanced at him and found that he did look a little like his cousin Lu Yanwei. He smiled modestly and said, You're too kind, Brother Erzi. You're also awesome. Why did he call him Brother Erzi? Because I still don't know what his real name is. Chapter 428. Haha, I'm just earning hard money. Well, let's get in the car. Mr. and Mrs. C are almost done. We can't keep them waiting for too long. Seeing Lu Cheng, Erzi put out the remaining half of the cigarette in his hand without hesitation, which made Lu Jisheng, who was smoking, stunned for a dozen seconds. Lu Cheng smiled and shook his head. If you're earning hard money, then I'm earning hard money too. Money that could be earned through sweat and blood. Lu Jisheng also put out the cigarette in his hand and threw it in the trash can. He and Qi Fong sat in the back of the Benz. After Lu Cheng fastened his seatbelt, Erzi started the car and drove to Lu Debang's house. He said with a smile, I watched your national competition from the beginning to the end. You're awesome. Every man dreams of becoming a master, and you're already a master. On the way, he didn't talk about anything else but martial arts. Occasionally, he would praise Lu Cheng in front of Lu Cheng's parents, making the atmosphere relaxed and harmonious. He must have been in the business for many years. Lu Cheng commented in his mind, but he pretended to be polite. Arriving at his grandfather's house, Lu Cheng had just finished greeting everyone when his cousin, Ma Shi, dragged him into the room. Her eyes sparkled as she pointed at a pile of posters and notebooks. Brother, you promised me that you would sign for my classmates, she said with pride and admiration. At least half of our classmates idolize you. Since I said I'm your idol, I'll sign them even if I have to kneel down. Lu Cheng laughed self-deprecatingly. He took a photo of the pile of posters and notebooks and sent it to his wife. He used an emoji with his head hanging from a beam to express his woes. The troubles of becoming famous. Look at your calligraphy. Yenjika put her hands on her hips and looked at the sky proudly. Seeing her cousin's smiling expression, Mashi asked curiously, Sister-in-law? Everyone who watched the final competition was impressed by the hug between Lu Cheng and Yenjika. Yet it's a blow to me. Lu Cheng shook his head with a smile. He took the pen and began to write his name. His wrist was steady and his strength was moderate. The more he wrote, the worse it got. All right. Finally, he exhaled and ended the activity that destroyed his confidence in calligraphy. Of course, if he wrote the words Qian or Xing, he would still be able to meet people with the help of visualization. Thank you, second brother. You're so nice. Mashi happily organized the posters and notebooks. By the time the brother and sister left the room, the two tables had been put together. Plates and basins of cooked dishes were brought out one by one. The aroma of the dishes lingered in the air. It was different from before. This is the game I got from Uncle You in the village. Try it, it's really good. Erzi introduced them to Lu Cheng with a smile and praised Lu Jiqiang. It's all thanks to second uncle's excellent craftsmanship. Most people wouldn't be able to handle these. Lu Jiqiang smiled smugly and said, These wild animals are just like that. Back when I was a cook in the army, he kept bragging about the past, completely not noticing that Erzi's face had darkened a bit. These wild animals were just SSO. Lu Cheng wanted to laugh when he heard their conversation. He secretly sighed that his second father was indeed a man who offended others the moment he opened his mouth. When he sat down and tasted a few pieces of different game, his mind suddenly became active. It's really good. I should let Ka try it too. Well, I was worried about what to bring to Ka's grandfather's house. Uncle You in the village should be the uncle who told me to go to him if I want to eat wild animals. Hee, I'm his son's savior. While thinking, he didn't feel ashamed to ask about the dishes he thought were good, and he firmly remembered Erzi's answer. This meal made Lu Debang very happy. He made an exception and drank more than usual. After praising Lu Cheng, he reminded Lu Yanwei to work hard under Erzi. and live up to the expectations of his relatives. At this time, Lu Qing noticed that his cousin Lu Yanwei was dressed like a dog, so he asked with concern, "Brother, what are you doing with Brother Erzi now?" The day Qifeng mentioned this, he wanted to ask his cousin, but he didn't expect that Yan Zhika would go abroad a year early. He didn't have time to care about it. Before Lu Yanwei had time to answer, Erzi said with a smile, "You've won the nationals and become the heavenly son of the era. The entire Xioshan city is proud of you, and the martial arts atmosphere is flourishing. In addition, the team formed by your city performed well this time, and almost made it to the second stage. You already have a lot of supporters. Therefore, your city plans to build a new martial arts arena and form a comprehensive business district that integrates health, fitness, leisure, and entertainment. I'm new here, so I don't have a big appetite. I only want to eat one piece, but I'm not familiar with this place, so I asked Yanwei to help me." Then he looked at Lu Debong and said, "Fourth Grandpa, don't worry. Yanwei has done a good job these days." Lu Qing listened to them thoughtfully and didn't express any opinion. Instead, the elders all exclaimed that he had become a household name in Xioshan, and directly led a trend that changed the city's planning. Star? Erzi laughed secretly and shook his head slightly. Fourth Grandpa's family had little contact with the martial arts circle, so they didn't have any practical experience. They only knew that Cheng was a great man, but they didn't know how great he was or what it meant in the real world. They just thought he was like a star. But in fact, in his eyes, as half an insider in the martial arts circle, Cheng should be a powerful man, famous and powerful in the future. He didn't talk about this, but changed the topic and talked about the family affairs in Qingfu County. The lively dinner was coming to an end. At this time, Lu Yanwei, whose face was getting rounder, winked at Lu Qing, indicating that he had something to say to him. "I'll take the fruit out of the fridge." Lu Yanwei stood up and walked to the kitchen, which made his mother, Wang Lily, want to wipe her tears. She sighed that her son had finally matured. Lu Qing went to the kitchen with an excuse to go to the bathroom. He saw Lu Yanwei holding his phone and chatting with someone with a smile on his face. I have a girlfriend," he said to his cousin, a little embarrassed. "Ah, brother, when did you have a girlfriend?" Lu Qing was shocked. Didn't his cousin go on several blind dates without success? Just right. Lu Yanwei smiled so widely that his eyebrows couldn't be seen. "We met before playing games. But at that time, I failed to start a business several times. I didn't have any confidence and didn't dare to pursue her. Recently, I ran some business with Brother Erzi and got back some confidence and some money." As he spoke, his voice grew softer and softer. Suddenly, he exhaled and said hesitantly, "Cheng, I feel like I'm in a dream right now. What if Brother Erzi doesn't succeed in his business, or I accidentally offend him? Wouldn't I be back to square one?" From his face, Lu Qing could see that he was worried about personal gains and losses. After thinking about it, he recalled Ku's occasional words and combined them with his own experience and opinion. "Brother, you don't have to worry so much. What's important is what you can learn from this. You see, in business you need money, connections, and foresight. If you follow Brother Erzi, you'll definitely meet a lot of business people. You'll build up your own connections if you deal with them well. Then you'll gain experience and foresight from this project. Even if it doesn't succeed in the future, or they turn against you, you'll become a better Lu Yanwei, and can find a way out." Lu Yanwei listened attentively. His expression gradually relaxed as if he had untied a lot of his worries. After a moment of silence, he said self-deprecatingly, "Cheng, why do I feel that you're more mature than me? It's as if you're my brother. I almost called you brother just now." Lu Qing pointed at himself and laughed. "Call me brother. Come on. You're so rude." Lu Yanwei's smile brightened. He took out fruits from the fridge, and cut them into plates and rinsed them. After dinner, Erzi said that they had finally gathered everyone and proposed to take a family photo. He would find a place to print it digitally. Lu Qing didn't care. He stood beside his grandfather and completed the photo. After taking the family photo, Erzi took the initiative to ask Lu Qing to take a picture with the heavenly son of the age. Lu Qing wouldn't refuse such a small thing. Learning from his little fairy, He stepped back and faced the camera with a smile. After chatting for a long time and sending the Liu family back home, Erzi drove to Qingfu County via the highway. He entered his own company and turned on the computer to print the photos. After carefully looking at the family photo and the one with Lu Cheng for a while, the smile on his face grew wider. He turned over 2 photo frames, put them in, and placed them on the boss's desk, facing the guests. Just then his phone rang. A call came in. "Hello, brother He. Why are you calling me so late?" "I'm in the company. Come over, and we can talk face to face." Okay, I'll wait for you." Putting down his phone, the corners of Erzi's mouth curled up. His gaze passed through the window and looked at the lights below. After almost half an hour, the sound of footsteps could be heard. A 30-year-old man in a suit pushed open the door to Erzi's office. He saw Erzi sitting behind the desk, holding a pen in both hands and slowly turning it. "Boss Lu, you're in a good mood." The man in the suit smiled reservedly. Just then, his eyes swept over the 2 photo frames on the table and saw the 2 photos. Boss Lu, you don't show your true colors." The man in the suit was stunned at first, then his smile turned into a bright one. Erzi, Lu Yuanzhang's smile became more obvious. In the Lu family, after Lu Jisheng went to take a shower, Lu Cheng and Qifeng talked about Yanzhika's favorite dishes. In the midst of their idle chatter, he suddenly remembered something and interrupted them. "Mom, do you know Erzi's name? You haven't mentioned it to me." "I didn't think about asking before." Qifeng was stunned for a moment and answered, "Lu Yuan, what's Lu Yuan again?" "Sigh, I don't remember clearly." Speaking of this, the mother and son looked at each other and smiled, throwing this matter to the back of their minds. Who cares what his name is? Chapter 429. Qifeng returned to the topic at hand. She asked curiously and nervously, "What's the matter with Erzi?" "Cheng, how much did Jika's family give you when you visited them?" "I have to go to the bank tomorrow to withdraw money for this." Lu Cheng smiled and said, 10,001 yuan. The meeting with his parents-in-law was informal, so he didn't have the necessary etiquette. He didn't receive a big red packet until he went to Jiangnan and finished his walk with Senior Ji. No, he should call him Grandpa. In fact, to the Ji family and the Yen family, a red packet of 10,001 yuan was nothing at all. However, considering the Lu family's situation and the fact that Lu Cheng was still in school, they decided on this number. It was more symbolic than practical. 10,001. That's good. Qifeng breathed a sigh of relief and smiled again. If it had been 2 months ago, she might have had a headache over the issue of red packets since she had spent all her savings on buying a house and renovating a house. However, things had come to an end. Lu Jisheng had been promoted and received incentive shares and corresponding bonuses. Their family's financial situation had improved, and they could still afford 10,000 yuan. As for the couple getting married, it was still too early, at least 3 years away. By then, they would be well off. Lu Cheng felt his mother relax and couldn't help but smile. "Mom, you don't have to go to the bank tomorrow. I have almost 10,001 yuan in cash. You just need to get some. For your wife." Qifeng was about to say something wrong. She laughed and said, "It's a red packet for your girlfriend. How can I spend your money?" "But isn't it natural for me to give money to my parents?" Lu Cheng said gently. "Mom, you're right. You're my wife, and you have a certificate. No, this is a gift from your dad and me." Qifeng waved her hand and refused. "Our family is doing well these days. Keep the cash for yourself. Don't let her suffer." Okay. Lu Cheng didn't insist. After all, he would find a chance to give more money to his mom in 2 days. At this time, Lu Jisheng came out of the shower. With the TV program as the background, the family of 3 talked a lot about Yanzhika's visit to her in-laws. In the end, Qifeng clapped her hands and decided to take her husband to buy some nice clothes after the cleaning tomorrow, so as not to embarrass her son. The moon was bright and the stars were sparse. The night was getting darker. Lu Cheng finished showering and lay on the bed. He shared the contents of their discussion with Yanzhika in the form of interesting news. He played the role of a mole perfectly. After talking about this matter, He felt the desolation and silence around him. He sighed with a smile and typed on the keyboard. The night is long, I can't sleep alone. Yenjika quickly replied with a snickering emoji. Unfortunately, I have Empress Dowager to accompany me. Mother and daughter talk at night. I don't know what it means to be alone and unable to sleep. After that, she sent a message. Do you think I will sympathize with you? I almost laughed out loud expression. Following that, she added. Alright, big sister will dote on you tomorrow. Be good and go to sleep. Sensing the subtle fluctuations and changes in his wife's emotions, Lu Qing smiled and asked, how does it hurt? How else can it hurt? In broad daylight, in front of so many people. How do you want it to hurt? Yenjika said with an emoji of slamming the table. I just want you to have breakfast with me. What are you thinking about? Cool, your thoughts are a little dirty recently. Lu Qing replied with an emoji of a sinister smile. Yenjika's face was flushed. She gritted her teeth and sent an emoji of knocking on the head. It's all because you are too dirty. That's why I'm thinking dirty. It's all your fault. Quick, say I'm wrong. Yes, Coach Yen, I'm wrong. Lu Qing typed with a smile and inexplicably missed her. Seeing his reply, Yenjika was silent for more than 10 seconds. Chung. What? Lu Qing asked in confusion. I miss you a little. Yenjika held her phone and lay on her side. Her eyes softened. Although they had only been apart for a little more than 4 hours. Me too. Seeing this, Lu Qing's emotions calmed down. His heart was peaceful, just like the scenery outside the window covered with a veil of moonlight. Compared to the burning passion, this was the beauty on the other side of love. The next morning, Lu Qing got up early and quickly washed up. He put on the navy blue Longhu Club martial arts suit and ran to the villa community by Backwater Lake to warm up before the training. At the entrance of the community, he sent a message. Not long after, he saw Yenjika running out quickly. The girl's black hair was tied up, and she was wearing plain white. She was pretty and elegant. What a coincidence, Lu Qing said with a smile. Ku was wearing the female version of the Longhu Club martial arts suit, which happened to be a matching outfit with his. And they didn't tell each other beforehand. What a coincidence. Yenjika showed her dimples and smiled sweetly. Girls always liked coincidences like this. It made them feel as if their hearts were connected. Without saying anything, the couple looked at each other deeply and ran to Backwater Lake with a smile. In summer, the sun rose early, so people started their morning exercises earlier. Lu Qing and Yenjika changed their usual places 3 times before they found a relatively secluded training spot. After a tender kiss, the two of them separated. Lu Qing got into a stance and started to move his joints. Crackling sounds came from his body. After this, he couldn't help but turn his head to look at his wife. He saw Yenjika's face was red, and she was ready to practice still stance. Practice your martial arts. What are you looking at? Sensing Lu Qing's gaze, the girl pouted playfully. Her eyes were clear and seductive. I'm looking at the motivation for practicing martial arts. Lu Qing replied with a smile, training harder and harder. Just like that, they focused on each other and occasionally looked at each other. They felt that time pass quickly. In the blink of an eye, it was the end of the morning exercise. Cool, what's your plan today? Lu Qing asked with a smile while jogging to breakfast. Yenjika looked up and said, I have to chat with Empress Dowager and my dad and cook with them. Well, I'm just an assistant and have to buy a gift for your family. What about you? If you didn't have any plans, we would have fooled around together. Lu Qing laughed. Fooled around your head. Yenjika glared at him, annoyed and amused. What kind of words are you using? Lu Qing laughed and said, Since you want to spend time with Empress Dowager and your father-in-law, I have to go home and help my mom with the cleaning. He wasn't familiar with his father-in-law and mother-in-law yet. It would be awkward to intrude and ruin the atmosphere and feelings. After the cleaning, I'll go to the Gushin Martial Arts School's strength training gymnasium for another 2 hours to push the door of the inhuman stage. Then I'll find Qin Rui and Fatty Jiang for a gathering. He described his plan. Okay. Yenjika nodded like a chick pecking at rice. As they ran, the two of them slowed down their pace. They started to hold hands, and then they started to walk faster. After eating the dumplings outside the #1 middle school, and sending his little fairy to the entrance of the neighborhood, Lucheng started his daily routine according to plan. It was past 1 o'clock in the afternoon. The scorching sun was high in the sky and there seemed to be heat waves rising from the ground. Lucheng, Jiangfei, and Qin Rui hid in a row under the shade of a tree and sat on the railing, leisurely looking at the gate of the #1 middle school a few meters away, watching the youthful juniors walk in one by one. Cheng, if you don't wear glasses, there will be a lot of people surrounding you. Fatty Jiang turned his head and looked at his best friends playing glasses. Yeah, Cheng is now a big celebrity in Xioshan. Our martial arts school doesn't need to say anything. As long as we mention that he used to be a part-time coach here, the number of applicants will explode instantly. Qin Rui echoed with a smile. After he succeeded in meditation, his strength improved rapidly. With the training of the preliminaries, he was almost at the level of 9th pin, almost catching up with Dai Linfeng. Lucheng laughed and said, I worked hard to achieve this. You can't be jealous. By the way, why didn't old Cheng come out? He usually takes a long time to reply when I chat with him on QQ. He hadn't seen Cheng Chili for almost a year. It's the same if I talk to him. Alas, maybe he made a lot of new friends in college and was busy with other things, so he didn't have time to meet us old classmates. Jiang Fei sighed. I've always thought that my contact with the other students in class would indeed become less and less in the future. However, the friendship between the three of us should be able to last for a very, very long time. In the end, Sai, when old Cheng thinks of us in the future, it will most likely be a red bomb. Believe it or not, I will send you one now. Lu Cheng complained in his heart, feeling a little disappointed. Friendship was such a thing. Once one party was cold, they would quickly become passers-by. The other classmates here expressed their dissatisfaction. Qin Rui made a joke. I'm just giving an example. I'm just lamenting my relationship with old Cheng. Jiang Fei pointed at the gate of the #1 middle school and said, Cheng, old Cheng, and I would sit here from time to time, looking at the school gate to see if there were any beautiful girls to admire. We would enter when class was about to start. Once we happened to see Yenjika, with her long hair fluttering in the wind. He stopped here and thought of the end of the goddess. He glanced at Lucheng sadly and said, Forget it, let's not talk about it. It's really a sad story. Lucheng laughed both physically and mentally. Qin Rui also laughed and said, I heard that there was a new teaching director recently. He forbade girls to keep long hair. Damn, what a pervert. Jiang Fei cursed excitedly. After joking about school affairs for a while, Qin Rui said smugly, Cheng, how confident do you think I am to participate in the ranking event of professional 9th pin now? He had asked Lu Cheng for advice in the morning. Settle down and train hard for 3 more months. You have a great chance to participate in the ranking event in October. Lucheng didn't exaggerate or belittle. Okay. Qin Rui gripped the railing tightly and couldn't hide his smile. Jiang Fei sighed and said, I feel that you two are not from the same world as me. When I first entered school, I wanted to be a successful person in the future. After 2 years of school, my dream has plummeted. I just want to find a good job after graduation, so that I don't have to live off my parents. After 2 more years, your dream will still plummet. Lucheng said sarcastically. As long as you have a job. Maybe. No, I have to pull myself together. Jiang Fei seemed to be stimulated. He had once wanted to lose weight and exercise, but after a winter break he stopped. He only did it once a week. Sometimes he would even slack off, so his body remained the same, and he still didn't have a girlfriend. While Jiang Fei was murmuring, Lu Cheng's phone rang and an incoming call came in. Hello, master? Seeing that it was Comrade Shi Jiangwo, he quickly answered the call. Brat, I'm getting your visa to America. Geezer Shi coughed and said, Are you busy today? Lu Cheng was puzzled and answered, Nothing. Why did master ask this? Well, I have a small task for you. It'll take you half a day at most. Geezer Shi laughed. A small task? Lu Cheng said to himself in surprise. Chapter 430. What's the matter? Lu Cheng felt uneasy. His master was sometimes unreliable. Gizershur laughed and said, "A disciple of the ice god sect named Li Zhenhua is in trouble in Linbian. You're the closest to him, so go and take care of him." Taking the high-speed rail to Linbian was indeed an hour and a half wasted time. Lu Cheng nodded slightly and asked, "Master, what's the trouble?" "It's a long story. You brat, you don't understand this old man at all." Gizershur laughed and scolded him. "Write down her phone number and call her later. She'll tell you the whole thing. XXXXX. Okay." Lu Cheng repeated it twice and asked Jiang Fei to write it down. He asked, "Master, I'm not working part-time in the sect. I should be paid for this kind of task, right?" "Hey, when did you become so greedy?" Gizershur smiled in surprise. Lu Cheng smiled embarrassedly and said, "Ku is going to study in America, so I need to save more money for the trip." As for using his own influence and connections to do business with others, he still couldn't cross the threshold in his heart for the time being. Not bad. You know how to save money for this. You're very responsible. I'm sure you'll be paid. Let's talk about it later. How can the sect treat you unfairly? Even if it's not for you, it's for me. At this point, Gizershur was still worried and reminded him, "When you arrive at the woodland, remember to give me a call if anything unexpected happens." Okay. Lu Cheng didn't say more. After the call, he quickly dialed the number his master gave him. The cheerful ringtone rang for less than 3 seconds before the call was connected. A tired and anxious female voice said, "Hello, who's this?" "I'm Lu Cheng from the Ice God sect." Lu Cheng's voice was low and concise. The female voice suddenly became excited. "Hello, senior. I'm Li Zhenhua's girlfriend, Zhang Xiaozi." "A senior?" Lu Cheng was stunned by the name. He didn't have time to correct her and asked directly, "What happened to Li Zhenhua?" It was his girlfriend who was answering the phone. "They didn't tell you? Zhenhua, he's missing." "Senior, this matter is rather complicated, so I can't explain it clearly. When you arrive, I'll tell you the details in person," Zhang Xiaozi said in an anxious tone. Sure enough, master is not very reliable. Lu Cheng thought to himself. Since he had to go and take a look anyway, he nodded and said, "Okay, I'll let you know when I book the tickets. Let's meet at the high-speed rail station." Okay, I'll wait for you, senior." Zhang Xiaozi was obviously relieved, as if she had found her backbone. "Senpai, do I sound that old?" He opened the app and booked the train to Linbian at 2:25 p.m., leaving the return trip aside for the time being. "Fatty Jiang, send me to the high-speed rail station. I have something to deal with in the sect." Lu Cheng had never been polite with Jiang Fei. "Tisk, Cheng, you're starting to look like a business elite." Jiang Fei had just finished watching a series about the workplace last night. Lu Cheng was about to mock himself when he suddenly thought of something. "Wait, Fatty Jiang, send me home first, then go to the high-speed rail station." Linbian was not part of the Xing province, but an important border area. Although it was still far from the national border, it was a land transportation hub with a large flow of people. The security there was not very good, and could even be said to be a little chaotic. Even though he was in Xioshan, he could hear from time to time that there was a big case there. Plus, it was a multi-ethnic area, so the atmosphere was quite tough. Therefore, even if he did not intend to do it, he had to be prepared. As the car started moving, Lu Cheng took out his phone and sent a message to Yenjika. Facepalm expression. "Capable people do more work. My master sent me to Linbian to deal with a trouble caused by a junior disciple. I'm a martial uncle, and if something really happens to someone of my generation, it's not something I can solve." Yenjika replied very quickly with an emoji of a dumbfounded face. "Okay, so sudden. Linbian is quite chaotic. Cheng, you have to be careful. Change into your martial arts suit. No matter what happens, don't think about holding back. You're the most important," she said a lot in one go. And at the end she said, "I'll wait for you to come back. With my dear wife's words, I'll definitely be able to return safely tonight." Lu Cheng sent an excited emoji with a red scarf wrapped around its head. "I'm just about to go home and change into my martial arts suit." When he reached home, he took out another set of navy blue Longhu Club martial arts suit and changed into the custom-made training shoes made for him by Wu Qinggui's company. He tightened his sleeves, took his phone and wallet, and strode out of the door. 2:08 p.m. He was sent to the high-speed rail station by Jiang Fei. 2:15 p.m. Lu Qing passed the security check and boarded the high-speed rail. 2:25 p.m. The high-speed rail started on time, roaring towards the south. 3:52 p.m. The high-speed rail stopped at Linbian Station. Lu Qing sent a message to Yanzhika and followed the line out of the carriage. 3:59 p.m. He walked out of the arrival hall in his navy blue suit and found the iconic white horse statue in the square in front of the station. This was the place where he and Zhang Xiaozi agreed to meet. Say, senior? A girl in her 20s with a hairstyle called out uncertainly. She was thin, wearing a short-sleeved shirt, shorts and jogging shoes. She could barely be considered pretty. Zhang Xiaozi? Lu Qing asked in reply. Yes. You're Senior Lu Qing? Didn't you say you were going to meet a martial uncle? Zhang Xiaozi asked, half surprised and half confused. It was because of this that she called him senior directly. I know you're not a disciple of the Ice God sect, and you don't care much about the university martial arts competition or similar topics. Lu Qing thought and nodded steadily. I joined the sect late, so I'm senior. Before Zhang Xiaozi asked again, he looked at the taxi queue and adjusted the sleeves of his martial arts suit. Let's talk on the way. Don't waste time. She was missing, so he had to seize every minute and second. Yes, senior. Zhang Xiaozi quickened her pace and followed beside Lu Qing. She quickly picked up the key points. Linbian has a rich man called Si Jianting. He colluded with a warlord in the war-torn area in the south. He opened several underground casinos near the border and lured many people to play there until they lost their family fortune. Zhenhua's father was one of them. When he was 13 years old, he committed suicide in the casino, and his family was ruined. He came for revenge? Do you have evidence? Lu Qing didn't stop walking and asked directly. The sect generally didn't care about this kind of revenge that didn't have any reliable clues. Yes. Zhang Xiaozi quickened her pace to a trot. He watched Si Jianting for 2 or 3 years. This time he said he could get decisive evidence, so he rushed to Linbian. Because he was afraid of an accident, he took me with him. He told me to immediately notify the sect if something was wrong. Then how did he go missing? Lu Qing slowed down his pace and wasn't so anxious to get close to the taxi queue. There were so many people, so who knew if the taxi driver knew the person over there? Zhang Xiaozi took a breath and said, Last night, Zhenhua said that he wanted to investigate Si Jianting's Lin Fu building at night and find those several decisive pieces of evidence. I watched him go in, but he didn't come out the entire night. I saw that something was wrong, so I immediately called the sect's senior brothers according to what he said. The sect first pressured the provincial police to come here and deal with it, but their local protectionism is particularly strong, so they didn't pay much attention. They searched once and found nothing. They looked at the surveillance video, but there was no scene of Zhenhua going in. I clearly saw him go in. I urged them again and again, but there was still no result. I could only report back to the sect, and they let senior come. Although Lu Qing was much younger than she had expected, in this kind of situation, she was grasping at the last straw. She didn't dare to change her attitude in the slightest. Lu Qing quickened his pace and said in a low voice, Let's go to the Linfu building to take a look first. You carefully recall if there are any important details missing. We'll talk about it after we get off the taxi. Yes, senior. Zhang Xiaozi walked breathlessly. At 4:21, the taxi stopped on the opposite side of the street from the Linfu building. Lu Qing, wearing a navy blue martial arts suit, pushed open the door and walked out. He looked at the 19-story building, which was generally short and old in the woods. This could be considered a landmark with a rather modern atmosphere. Si Jianting has been transforming and washing his name in the past few years, and has started to get involved in real estate. This is a joint development between him and several companies. Zhang Xiaozi introduced. She hadn't finished speaking when her eyes suddenly widened. She pointed to the opposite side and said, Si Jianting. Lu Qing looked up and saw an old man in his 50s with a rigid outline and an aquiline nose. He was surrounded by 7 or 8 bodyguards and subordinates as he walked out of the Linfu building's door. His eyes were sharp and cold. This was Xi Jianting. In the taxi, Lu Qing had seen the photo Zhang Xiaozi had taken of him, but they hadn't talked about it. Compared to Xi Jianting, Lu Qing was more concerned about the 2 bodyguards at his side. One had dark skin, and his facial features were very characteristic of the war-torn areas in the south. The other had muscles that supported his t-shirt. Every step he took was neither too long nor too short, just right, as if measured with a ruler. They were all dance-stage martial artists. As for their specific levels, it was very difficult to judge from their appearance. The 2 of them are very strong. Without them, Xi Jianting wouldn't have survived until now. That dark-skinned one is called Wilson. He's a freelance killer in the war-torn areas. Later, he was seriously injured and was taken in by Xi Jianting, becoming his confidant. At his peak, he was said to be close to level 6. That muscular guy is called Huang Qingda. His strength is a bit worse than Wilson's, but he's also a martial artist who's seen a lot of blood in the war-torn areas. Zhang Xiaozi repeated the information Li Zhenhua had collected. Senior, don't be careless. They're definitely hiding guns, the kind with large caliber. As she spoke, she impatiently said to herself, "Where are they going? Home. You ask the people in the police station here." Lu Qing calmly ordered. Okay. Zhang Xiaozi quickly took out her cell phone and asked a few questions. Her face suddenly became very bad. She turned her head and anxiously said to Lu Qing, "Xi Jianting wants to go to the south to discuss business. The people in the police station said they have no evidence or clues, so they can't stop him. Senior, he wants to run." Of course, the south was the border. And if Xi Jianting ran, Li Zhenhua would most likely disappear forever. But there's no evidence. Lu Qing saw 2 black cars drive to the entrance of the building. He saw Wilson quickly run forward and open the back door of the second car. Huang Qingda protected Xi Jianting as they approached. He thought for a moment, dialed his master's number, and briefly and comprehensively repeated the current situation. "You decide for yourself," Gieserscher said with some schadenfreude. "What's the bottom line?" Lu Qing asked back. Gieserscher muttered to himself for a few seconds, coughed twice, and said, "Don't kill anyone." You're tuning in to the Echoes of the Heart YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.